Backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Tried to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Man, they are workouts, practices everywhere throughout the country. College football, of course, K-State, Iowa State, and a small handful of other programs started working out a few days ago because they have games earlier than others. But football, fall camp across the country has begun. We will see Auburn here in about 3 weeks or so, and a couple of notes about them here in just one moment. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We appreciate your time. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so now. All right, let's get to it. This is from Hugh Freeze, the Auburn football coach, announcing that Malcolm Simmons, very, very hell of a weapon with Auburn, had been suspended because of an assault charge. Freeze announces today that Malcolm Simmons has been cleared to participate in practice.
Well, they have three very good wide receivers when it comes to Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, who they got from Georgia Tech, and now Malcolm Simmons back in the fold. They have weapons, something they really haven't had too much. Now, Cam Coleman was there last year and pretty much single-handedly helped them beat A&M. And he was a true freshman, so you see the talent there. If Jackson Arnold can get going, so this is good news for Auburn fans. I'm not familiar enough with his case to comment on it, but at least football-wise, it's good news for them.
Domestic assault allegation of strangulation or suffocation.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I guess it's not too bad because he's sitting there. He's practicing for Auburn now, so I guess it's very fortunate for him and fortunate timing as they get everything underway that he'll be involved with them. But that's what Hugh Freeze said was that he had been cleared to participate based on the information that he's been given from our campus administration who have knowledge of the situation. He's been cleared to participate in activities. So there you go. And today the first day for them, and to have him with Singleton and Coleman, I think is going to be a nice little addition. But I think you already had your hands full enough with them two already. So Baylor's secondary, definitely their weakness a year ago. We'll certainly learn a lot. We'll find out a lot, and we'll see a lot from them in that very first game because they're going to get challenged. Maybe more so than any other game they play all year. I mean, we'll see. But Singleton and Coleman are about as two of the best receivers as you're going to find, especially combined together. So, that's going to be a real challenge for Baylor, and that's one of those big non-con matchups for those who want to do the conference bragging rights thing. That's a big opportunity for the Big 12 to kind of make a statement early on. But, that's definitely the matchup you look to is Auburn's receivers, Baylor's secondary for me, even a month out.
Well, after the bowl game against Nussmeier and LSU, that was a problem. No doubt they've tried to upgrade it, plus a year extra experience for others. He had 40 catches, nearly 500 yards last year, and 3 touchdowns for Auburn. Meanwhile, during his press conference, and we've heard people mention how they want their football players. Dave Aranda, I'll never forget, back in 21 when Baylor had that nasty, stingy defense. He was trying to explain to me the difference between an SEC defense and most everybody else, and most of it was along the front line, the defensive linemen. Today, Hugh Freeze, I've heard Steve Sarkisian saying he wants big humans, right, on the offensive line. Here's Hugh Freeze. You need length and girth in this league.
Not the way I would have described it, especially if, given Hugh Freeze's past. That's the only joke I'm going to make because we do want to get him on this show. But I could just lost that. I could rattle off several. But this is not what I would have said comparing the size in your league to. But sometimes you just need guys.
What he's saying is absolutely nothing wrong with what he's saying.
But
just maybe
most of the time when you use these two measurements, you're talking about something else.
Yes, yeah, yes, you are. And if I was a cheesy FM DJ from the 90s, early 2000s with the soundboard, I'd be playing the little Beavis and Butthead laughing clips for you guys. You that's basically, I know what you're trying to hold back. A funny turn of phrase here. And you just separate that sentence. Yes, you can get your Snickers on what Hugh Freeze had to say today. Very immature boys over there. So, yeah, that's I get what he's saying, but probably could have phrased it differently for the very immature college football fans out there.
Way to go, Paul.
Yeah,
trying to get me to bring me into by the way, Freeze did mention this, one last thing, that he had a pro scout tell him that all 5 of his offensive linemen, he had him, the scout had them with pro draft grades, draftable grades. Now, could be some that are early, some of them could be 5th, 6th, 7th round, but that's still pretty good if you can get those, your offensive linemen, your starters, at any type of draft level. So we'll do that again. That's going to be, I'm looking forward to that game. Can't wait for us to do the show and then get to the stadium and hopefully watch one hell of a game to kick off the season.
It's going to be a great atmosphere. I do wonder, we were talking before the show, there's only so many ways to get to the studio from where I live, and they've seemingly blocked off every single one of them now with new construction, which is fine because I know people, especially in big cities, are like, it's every day for us and all that. And this isn't the smallest city in the world, but the amount of construction in and around the stadium with 1 month to go just has me a little bit nervous about the Auburn fans that are going to be rolling into town en masse, and then everybody making their way up from north and south. But yeah, it should be an incredible atmosphere. I just hope all that's not ruining the experience with traffic. You know what I mean? So hopefully they're able to nip that in the bud here in the next couple of weeks and get out of the way so that Waco can get ready to welcome a big crowd for one of the better games in the entire college football slate early on. You've obviously got your big Ohio State and Texas matchup and your Michigan-Oklahoma matchup, and there's various others. But, I think Clemson and Auburn's a big opportunity for Baylor, hosting a team like that they haven't normally hosted a team like here in previous years, really since the stadium opened, quite frankly. They've hosted Utah prior to the Big 12 entry. And who else, guys? SMU when it was still just SMU. Yeah. That was basically
You're talking about non-conference games?
Yeah, here? That's what I'm talking about.
The BYU game when they came in the year before they joined the Big 12 and all that was going on was a nice moment. So Utah the next year. But, this is as good as it gets.
BYU was still independent. Yep. Utah was – I think in the pack at that point.
They were.
But outside of that, there haven't really been any big non-conference games, certainly not the level of an Auburn. So I think people are excited for that, and I think Auburn's curious about exactly what Baylor has up their sleeve. I've seen some very confident Tigers fans. And when you have the level of talent that they do, especially if Jackson Arnold pans out to a degree, then I think they've got every reason to think that Hugh Freeze can have a pretty good team this year. But I know that the expectation on the other side is that, hey, if they do anything less than 8 wins, that's going to be a massive disappointment with their quarterback. So, that's a pretty good game that we got coming up here pretty soon.
By the way, I did ask this question. The rosters, and you hand them out, there's flip cards, whatever. I did ask Brent Ingram, media relations at Baylor. Ashton Hawkins' name is on the roster, but I was told not to read anything into it, at least at this particular moment. That does not mean anything with him in the NCAA for eligibility has been cleared.
Are they just trying to will it into existence at this point?
Well, Aranda has said, when asked, he said that I expect him to be part of our football roster. So, and even a statement a couple of months ago from the athletic department.
Yeah, that's such a microcosm of how the NCAA does business, of where they say something, a guy makes a decision about his future, and then they were like, maybe it doesn't apply to you the way that we thought. And they could just, again, have taken a year, taken one more lump, and then moved on. Or made the rule, or get busy making the rule that gives it 5 for 5 and says, okay,
it's not
here's
that
what the
hard.
rule is. I know it's not but
shouldn't be.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. Okay, these are what all the courts have ruled. Okay, so this is what we're losing on. So let's build a rule that incorporates all these court losses that we've had, and then call that the rule, and then move on.
Yeah,
but instead, they just
somebody
have to,
might challenge it, and if they do, they do.
Yeah, but they still, nobody knows what they're doing. Yeah. Now, it's not completely their fault, because I don't think I would have anticipated the JUCO thing if I were them.
It's a pretty sharp move by Pavia.
Yeah, I don't think I would have anticipated that. But when you did get popped with it, you just should have been like, okay, well, that sucks, but we'll be out of it in a year.
But I don't understand how it works against him. If Pavia got the year because he played JUCO, then Hawkins, in theory, should get the year because he played JUCO. I think the problem is he already had 5 non-JUCO years, though, so I don't know. So the person who handled the case screwed up.
Yeah, the guy from whoever said he was cleared to play in 25 from the NCAA and compliance, not Baylor compliance, said he had another year. And then a couple of months later, they changed it.
Yeah, a couple of months after he's already made his choice to not go try to pursue the NFL or, enter the draft or go participate at a pro day or – I mean, he could have gone down, I'm sure, back to San Marcos to participate in one. He certainly could have done it here. We had been at the Big 12 Pro Day, I guess, because they don't do the individual ones now. But, I don't understand how somebody screwed up like that, and then he pays the price for it. But I also know, can you just say, well, technically he doesn't even have a year, but we're going to give him a year he doesn't have because our guy screwed up? Can you do that? Because doesn't that then open up a whole mess of problems that you're just given a year that doesn't really exist? So I don't know that they can just go back and turn it around. It's super unfortunate. I wish he would get his year because I think he makes them a better team. And obviously this is better for him is to do what he was thinking he was going to be able to do, which is come back and play college football for another year. So, he was a 5th-year senior last year. And you, I guess, assumed that the JUCO thing would give you that extra year. I don't know. That was all confusing to me. I didn't understand how he got it to begin with. So, somebody just screwed it up. And
Texas State 3 years and then Baylor. You're right. And then before that, junior college. So it's unfortunate for Ashton. And then you'll see sometimes these waivers, and the NCAA might do that. I don't know, but I was told not to read anything into it at this moment with his name still being on their roster.
So I guess it would be he played for 3 seasons at Texas State. He played all year. So he played 4 years. He had the JUCO year. So he wouldn't have a redshirt year?
Well, and here's the thing. Remember, now he didn't play 2020 unless it would have been JUCO. So the COVID year that he had been playing in the NCAA at some level, he would have been given that extra year.
Well, good thing I wasn't in charge of the case because I probably would have botched it too because I still don't. It still is confusing to me of what he has or doesn't have at this point. So, I hope he gets an answer soon. He's going to have to get an answer soon because he's been thrown for a loop. And, well, like you said, they play in a month. So, hopefully that can get resolved and everybody can move on accordingly.
Yeah. So, again, that revoke, he had that final year revoked back in the spring. And he's been on Twitter. He's kind of been quiet. He hasn't thrown anybody under the bus. Our good friend Scotty B is his agent, though. I mean, he is on the NCAA big time.
I'm not sure
you wouldn't want Scotty B to.
Oh no, I would appreciate his help, but I've seen his tweets and
oh my God,
he says I want justice for Hawkins. I think it would be more effective if it was like a collective, because it just sounds like him. This is just a messaging thing, because I could say I want justice for Jordan Travis. Well, if it's just me, they're not serving me, right? They're serving the college football populace. So we want justice for Hawkins is a better message than I.
Yeah, he played 1 year at Cisco Junior College, community college out west, and that was when they played games in the spring because of COVID. But again, NJCAA, not the same as NCAA. Coaches on the hot seat. I was surprised.
Don't we have it scheduled for a segment?
Huh?
At 4:00, we have it scheduled for a segment.
Oh, I didn't know that. You guys changed it up on me. It's not on here.
Well, we print out the new one.
The new one. Okay, forget it. At 4:00, we're going to look at the various coaches on the hot seat. And I tell you,
according to Ari Wasserman.
Yeah, okay. Well, doesn't mean Ari's a good dude, but we probably should have our own. You should have your top 8 coaches. You should do a top 8 poll. LaDainian Tomlinson, Waco. He went to high school at University High. Then, of course, unbelievable player at TCU, and then went on to have a Hall of Fame career in the National Football League. He went back to the school yesterday at TCU. Mike Buddy, the AD, went back and donated his Pro Football Hall of Fame gold jacket to the program for them to hang up in the football facility for other players to see what can be done.
Yeah, I was at LT's Hall of Fame induction. It was an awesome weekend. Hugh and I were there. It's awesome to see this jacket wind up where it was. He had what I thought was the best speech of them all. I mean, a little biased because I've known LT for a while, but it was a great night. It was a great speech, and he's done a ton for TCU. I mean, he's back now living in the DFW area. I'm not sure exactly where he is. I think he's in Fort Worth because he was in San Diego and LA for quite a long time, but he's back there, I think, full time now, and really giving back to TCU. And he's by far their biggest star of the last quarter century. I mean, it's him, and I know there's some other really good players, but he's next level. I think it's really awesome that people get to see that jacket, and he will have to come and take it back with him when he goes back for the things, because they wear it at the Gold Jacket.
They do. I'm kind of disappointed that Garrett and none of you have asked me to bring in mine and hang it on the studio walls.
Well, I mean, we're remodeling the studio.
Everybody.
Soon. We're remodeling the studio soon, so we'll have a place for it.
Yeah, unbelievable player and a great young man.
Yeah, I mean, LT's always been a cool guy to talk to when we've had the rare opportunity, and he loves TCU. That much is clear, and the way he's always talked about them and propped them up, and just shown the love towards that program. So good to have a guy like that, a current modern day Hall of Famer that you expect is going to be around to do that for a very long time, just like Earl with Texas, or various other famous alums in their programs. I mean, he was Mr. TCU there for a while. In some ways still is, because a guy like Max Duggan, who was popular there for half a second, I mean, completely faded in the pros, and I don't know if he's like in the UFL now or not, but that was about as big of a star that had come through in a little while. And I know they've had various guys go off to the pros, but yeah, the face of that program's LT. Without trying to go back to, with the first Heisman winner, Davey O'Brien or something like that. It's LaDainian Tomlinson, and it's not even really close in my estimation. So that's cool. He loves TCU. TCU loves him, and I think that's a really cool moment to be able to share with the program that helped you get where you are. So that's great for Sonny Dykes and company.
I remember one time driving, I don't know why, it would have been, a Saturday, driving around, and I was listening to a friend of ours, Bill Coates, who does radio in Tyler. He was the voice of TCU, a UT grad, and it was the day that LaDainian Tomlinson ran for, what was it, over 400 yards and broke the NCAA single-game record. I don't remember who may have broken that record after him, maybe Ron Dane or somebody else. That might have been all time, but it was 400 yards. Yeah, it ran for 400 yards when they played, when they were terrible that year. I remember listening to him, and then got to know him when he was here. Does a lot for local charities and also education in the Waco area. So Ross Dellinger, if he tweets, it's something coming up. And I'm like Craig, and maybe like some of you, that I look at this and I not check out, because that would be dumb. I mean, I do this for a living covering college sports. However, this is about revenue. That if you're a team in the basketball tournament, if you're in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, I would think this includes the women as well. If you advance to the semis and championship game, you receive extra revenue units. You get revenue units for every game you play, every win you get. It adds up, eventually split over, 6 years among the conference? God knows how they do that now with everybody in different directions. But they're going to add what appears to be, if they pass it, revenue units if you get to the semis and or championship game.
Well, this will help them maybe garner some more support from inside also for expansion of the tournament. It's like, hey, there's more teams are going to get in. More teams will have an opportunity for more money.
2 more units.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got more units. This is all part of that. I didn't know this, that it stopped at the semis. I just assumed that, like, if you won the championship, that was a thing. But it is such but it is all about how much more money can you get, how much more money can you get, how much more money can you get. So I'm not surprised.
How you can get people to join? Yeah. Tell them they can make more money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure it's all part of that, but that they would have more payout, which the thing is they would have to, because if they're going to do more games and they need the media partners to give them more money, the school's going to say, like, okay, we're getting this money too, right? It's not just the NCAA as an organization.
I think I knew that this stopped at the semis. I think I had read that some time before, but I think it's logical to want to add more to the pie and try to politic your way via money, which it seems like this is what's going on, as you guys both have mentioned. I mean, money solves all problems, or in theory it does, and money is the biggest issue facing most of these schools. So, hey, more money, more money, more money. Will you do what we want to do or play along? And so I think it's a logical thing to do if you're those trying to get the tournament bigger. I also think it just makes sense to have distribution go past the semis. I mean, that seems sort of silly that you wouldn't get paid past that point if you're going to the farthest round. So I think that's just a natural change that should be happening regardless of what the ulterior motives may be. But yeah, it definitely feels like there's ulterior motives here. But good for the schools. There's another alleyway opening up for the potential to make more money. I don't know, I guess, yet what the payouts would be, and I wonder if just the cost, like how much they actually make when all is said and done. Like, is it an extra $250,000 versus what you paid traveling and all that? Like, how much do you actually walk away with when it's all said and done? But it's more than zero, which is what you were getting past the semis previously. So yeah, good for them, and yay money.
Jayhawk Champ, we're going to get back to something he mentioned, but yeah, it's more money. That means 4 teams will get an extra unit and 2 teams will get 2. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm chuckling because I'm just like, it's just, we're rooting for money. Like, it's weird. It's strange to me.
What was that thing? And what was the chat room yesterday afternoon about the term they used, the slogan he used about athletics now compared to back in the day? I can't remember. I mentioned, you guys laughed and giggled, but I can't remember. Go ahead, Craig.
No, I just, I don't know. I wasn't looking at chat, but if somebody remembers, then pass it along. But no, it's just weird. I think it's a news story. It is, and it's notable. It is. It's just weird though that a lot of these stories are like rooting for money to be made, and it's just, I get what country we live in, and I get how it operates and everything, but it's still strange. I don't feel all that comfortable with it, to be perfectly honest. So. It's part of the deal, and we move forward.
All right. Rutgers has a new AD, and it's former LSU Chief Operating Officer Kelly Zinn. She takes over as the new athletic director for the Scarlet Knights. She was a part of advancing the name, image, likeness. By the way, Paul, I said "the" before that because that's a sentence, and I led into it.
Yeah,
I'm going to learn it. I'm getting better. At LSU, also was at West Virginia as an interim AD. Not when the Ren Baker transition took place, because she was at LSU at the time, but she's been at West Virginia and has a little bit of a smidgen of time at the University of Maryland.
Congratulations to her for getting that job, and certainly has made her way as helping out with the name and image likeness push at LSU, which she was so successful at. She got Brian Kelly to give them some money for it.
Yeah.
And she, if you can do that, like, shoot, you're my AD any day now. You can get the coach to fork over $1 million. That's qualifying right there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about her at all, but got her own football coach to open up his pocketbooks. I think more notable is had by far the most followed and probably popular group of NIL athletes of any college in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's particularly close at all. When you think of just Libby Dunn alone, much less Angel Reese, and then you get into Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow. And I mean, and maybe Burrow's a little bit too ahead, like by a couple years or so, but I mean, that whole perfect storm of that led right into NIL, and LSU couldn't have been a hotter brand than it was. So yeah, I mean, if she's been a part of that, I can see why that would be appealing, because I don't think anybody's really done it much better. I'm not even including Paul Skeens, because college baseball stars aren't even really massive stars.
Or Flage.
Flage Johnson and so on. So yeah, I don't think anybody's done NIL, not the NIL, better than
by God, I'll
LSU.
never use that ever again. If I do, I want you guys to get the ruler out like your Catholic teachers back in the day in the knuckles. All right, so there we are. Well, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up, Olivia Dunn and all that. That was it.
The knuckles was the lightest one.
Was it on the back of your head?
Yes. I know. Here, Sister Catherine, she didn't mess with the ruler. Sister Catherine, man.
Such a Catholic
teacher. Sister Catherine would put her dukes up, man. She hit me in the back of the head one time so hard.
Saw stars?
Oh, yeah. No, I saw Jesus. And I think he was laughing at me. He's
like, you do that again, you're going to see me a lot quicker than you wanted to.
And here's the thing. I was just laughing. We had what was called silent sustained reading at the end of every day, which was 20 minutes where you had to read a book. And I was reading a book that was funny, and I was laughing, which ultimately violates
your downfall.
I was sustained reading, but I was not silently doing it. And she came by and just whacked me on the back of the head, which I think was, I mean, she was mean but nice, one of those nuns. Like, she was nice, but she just had a mean streak in her. And so I got mad, and I ran to tell my mom after school.
Oh, Lord.
But my mom worked at the school, so she was already taken in by them. Like, it was not, she was part of the enemy. She was I heard you were laughing. I was like, well, the book was funny.
See, she had already told your mother.
No, she did. Yeah. No, she knew. Like, but my mom she was compromised.
I want to circle back just for a second before one on EA Sports and the college basketball game, the video game. Jayhawk Champ said they'll let anybody in the Pro Football Hall of Fame these days. LaDainian Tomlinson is 7th all-time when it comes to rushing yards. He had 145 yards rushing touchdowns among the top ever. I think Emmett, of course, is in at that number one spot. He also caught 17 touchdown passes, had 8 1,000-yard seasons. He was a great dual threat, by the way, not only as a running back, but just wanted to let Jayhawk Champ know who's getting skewered in the chat room.
I'm guessing he's a Chiefs fan and is mad because LaDainian Tomlinson played for the Chargers.
Yeah, it's probably just a troll because, honestly, anything beyond that, there's not even really a conversation. He's a top 10 all-time rusher, so I'm assuming that's just a Chargers fan who's not, or a Chiefs fan who doesn't have much love for the Chargers, or is just trolling because there's not really a case to say that LT's anything but a Hall of Famer. That's not even a question mark.
And, Gale Sayers, where did he play college football?
Kansas.
Was an incredible player, but his career was cut short, like Terrell Davis and others. But he's in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame, despite the fact his career was cut dramatically short by bad knees.
That weekend that I was there,
Gale Sayers,
and he was not in very good health at the time, but it was the most amazing moment of the Gold Jacket Dinner. Which, if you are a football fan, and you can ever find a way to get to the Gold Jacket Dinner in Canton, Ohio, the night before the induction, you need to go to it because it is amazing.
Yeah.
It is absolutely amazing. You just sit there and just watch,
you drool.
Just a name after name after name.
Yeah.
But when Gale Sayers came out, it's one of there's always 3 or 4 players that when they come out, everyone else stops. And it was Gale Sayers was one of them. Earl is the other. Earl is another one. Earl was in the press conference that I wasn't, or the thing that they had for just the veterans that I stuck into because it was right outside the radio show.
You snuck into it, tried to lose your credential?
We weren't supposed to go in there, but I'm gonna blame that on the late great Mike Chapman, who's like, just go. I'll tell you.
University High.
He was there, and he's like, because he got to go in. He's like, I'll just tell him you're with me. And I walked in, and Earl was at that, and everybody stopped when Earl was in. Emmett Smith and other guys are in there, and when Earl's in there, it's that way. And then the other one, I think it was an old quarterback. It was Namath. When Namath walked in, everybody kind of, just because I don't think NFL players are as popular and as wealthy now, if not for how cool Joe Namath was.
Yeah, he was.
So he kind of made the quarterback. He took it to this other level of Broadway Joe. So when he walked in, everybody was like, ooh.
LT's a second all-time rushing touchdowns and third all-time total touchdowns behind Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith.
Yeah, he's also 7th all-time yards. I mean, it's not even a question. So I think that was just having some fun, but did make me look at the all-time rushing list, and Derrick Henry has a chance to move well within the top 20 this year. He's at number 19 overall.
Whoa.
He'll go past Steven Jackson with a carry, basically. He's maybe not a carry. He's 15 yards behind Steven Jackson. But if he were to have, let's say, 1,000-yard season.
Well, he better do that. I mean, hope stays healthy.
Then he could look at being right outside, right behind Tony Dorsett, who's at number 10 right now. So, Derrick Henry, just 1,000 yards, would pass up Steven Jackson, Fred Taylor, Thurman Thomas, Franco Harris, Marcus Allen, Edgerrin James, Marshall Faulk, and Jim Brown. on the all-time rushing list with 1,000. So he could potentially. I mean, Dorsett's at 12-7.
1,500-yard year for him.
1,500. He
stays healthy.
He's in like the number 7 spot all time on the list, and he's passing up Tony Dorsett and probably not Eric. Yeah, probably just only
Dickerson
Dorsett.
would be a 2,000-yard year, which he's capable of, but he's the only active player among the top 25 all-time leading rushers in National Football League history. So this is interesting. I've admitted that I was a video game guy back when it came out. It was a game called Pong. And then, of course, I was a Pac-Man phenom. And then Asteroids. Is that what the name of I loved Asteroids. I was really good at that game. And but that was it. I never have really done anything since that time, and I don't get it. It's just way above my technological brain, which most everything is. Now EA Sports, the football thing came out, basketball, they're going to include everybody. Well, that's a Division I basketball team. Is that right?
I wondered why it was going to take 3 years to get this done. I thought and I knew you got to build engines and you all these things. It's very, very complex. But when you told me it took them long enough to get all of the teams on the FBS level into the college football game, and there are no FCS teams in it. If you want to create an FCS team, you have to do it on your own. They have FCS Midwest, South. There's 8 of them, and they just pop up on your schedule if you want to play them in the dynasty mode or whatever. But but to get all 350, it's going to take a very, very long time to get all of those arenas, all of those uniforms, all of those things. But in 2028, I'll be first in line to give this a go. Absolutely, because I think it'll be awesome.
We never did get your summary. We need to do that before we get too long on the football game.
I can tell you real quick. Right now, I just started a new dynasty. I've been trying to figure it out. The recruiting is way harder, which is good. But when you're old, you get used to something after a few months, and then you get I don't like that it's harder, but I like that it's harder. It's one of those things where I'm figuring it out. The gameplay is a lot smoother. I think the everything, all the upgrades have been cool. I have no complaints about it. If they had been able to roll out this version last year, it probably would have been even bigger because all the things that younger gamers complained about, they fixed already, which I think is a testament to them in going through and really hearing what people were saying.
We're talking about the EA Sports college football game.
What could be better? What could we do? And they pretty much were able to knock them all down. Now there's also little things that they're doing, but I'm very impressed at the way that they moved past that era where I think a lot of people thought that EA Sports just didn't listen to them. And year one, they certainly listened to the people in this game. So it's good. I recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's great for college basketball fans that are excited about this game, although the wait's a little bit longer than you were hoping for, obviously. But to have all 350 programs, I think people will be okay with being patient for that. So I think that's great to really encapsulate college basketball is to include some of the smaller programs. And I think back to the Pong reference is just that's just Super Mario even. Something within the last 40 years of video games. You're going to it's the 50-year anniversary of Pong.
No, and I can't disagree. That would have been 55 years, I think. Galaga was another game that the chat.
Galaga, that was a big stand-up video game at the pizza place, in that kind of deal, which I miss greatly. That's some nostalgia hit there. But
I saw that for $450, you can get for your house a tabletop thing, and you can play all those games Pac-Man, Miss Pac, whatever you want. It's got them all loaded in it, old school style.
Why don't we do this? I'll buy it, put it in your upstairs, used to be a man
why don't
cave.
we put it in here?
Oh, okay.
Put it in here.
I'll $450.
I think it's $450.
Then you have to buy stuff to put inside the system?
No. It comes preloaded with all the games, the old school
Let's do that.
tabletop.
I'll buy it.
Amanda told me I couldn't have it, and I was very upset.
Why not? The noise?
Because she knows I'd be up there
I will buy it, bring it into the studio, and we'll have tournaments and stuff like that. I will. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that'd be a way to to get you back into a little bit. But yeah, just like all the games Pong. It's like the most basic and most original game.
Who's old enough in the chat or here in this room that remembers Pong?
I remember Pong. I'm just saying, like, there's not even like a Super Mario reference or like a freaking like something.
I never did like the Super Mario.
I'm working on a game for older people that's like Asteroids.
Screw you.
It's called Hemorrhoids. And what you do is instead of
I know how to do that.
And you knock it off, they just shoot preparation H at a guy's butthole.
Stop.
Yeah.
So
stop. Yeah, Craig, you're right, though. That was back in the late 70s, I think, Pong. And you'd go to a bowling alley or you go to somewhere, I guess it may be an old pizza place, and you can play Pong and Asteroids. Somebody
this is going to be
Galaga.
me in 50. I won't make it 50 years. Be like, I remember Call of Duty when
Eric.
I remember GTA 5. Like,
hey, Garrett, you know what? I'm coming after you in the break.
By the way, I want to finish
Pong was more my speed from Tracy Fisher.
Yeah, I mean, Pong's fun. It's just, is there not a more like
Zelda?
Recent update?
Can somebody look? I know I have Google. The dates of when Pong, Asteroids, Galaga, and there was the other one I mentioned. I forgot.
I can play them all. I can play them all for like, there's like a $4.99 old school game that takes up like no space on your PlayStation that has all 100 of those because they have like no
1972.
Yeah. That's when I was in high school.
Yeah.
They have like no volume to them because they're so old, and like there's no like graphics that are taking up a lot of space on those games. So you can buy like a bundle on the PlayStation Store of like 100 classic games, and it's all those games for those who may be interested in that sort of thing. You can go play Pong and Asteroids and all those various other games. But as far as the college basketball, I think to include all those programs, like I was saying, is a really cool deal because that's in the spirit of college basketball, is to have those teams that are Cinderellas in March Madness and whatnot. So I think that ought to be nothing but good for the game ultimately. Now that will take up a lot of space, which is why it's taken so long to make up that game. But I can recall being younger and having like a fighting game like Mortal Kombat or even a wrestling game. I remember getting one, being so excited, and there's like 8 characters to choose from.
Yeah.
You're like, this is like a quarter of the roster. Like, where is so-and-so and where's so-and-so? So I do love that now there's like 400 characters on every game. There's no limitations, and that's pretty cool and very cool for basketball.
We got to break for Matt Brown.
A $450 was clearly a sale price.
I was going to tell you, buddy, like that sounded low to me.
You guys are chipping in whatever the difference. I'll do the first $450.
That sounded way low to me when you said that. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
I wonder how much an Atari game, an old Atari.
I'm hoping our owners are watching this now and going, you know what?
I bet
we'll do it.
They're cool.
The thing about an Atari game, though, is if you're going to do that, you better have it bundled with something else because you don't want to play the full price tag just for Atari. Like,
no.
I mean, because that's going to
get old. You want Namco, too.
That's going to get old really quick.
Yeah. Pong 72, Asteroid 79, Galaga in 81, and Centipede in 80. That's the Hall of Fame of video games.
It took them 8 full years to figure out Centipede.
If I went to Andrew and Brandon, Garrett, or you and said, hey, I need it for you guys to build like they do now, EA Sports Football, build me Pong, it would take you 3 minutes to probably get that done.
Oh, I'm sure there's some kid that can figure it out on his phone.
Ask Matt Brown about if he ever played that. Extra points. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. 1 out of 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. And I'm telling you, if you have low testosterone, you'll have one of these symptoms, maybe more. 1, your energy's not there. And you're trying, staying in shape or trying to be fit or maybe even watching what you eat. But you're still something's missing. And that could be it. Your sex drive or performance is not the same. That can be it. Your sleep habits can change. That could be it, along with your focus, which for me is called Adderall, but I don't have a prescription for that. But that can be a problem, too, when it comes to low testosterone. I'm telling you, it happens 1 out of every 3 or 4 men. If you want to get that fixed or you want to know if that's your problem, contact Dr. Kent Petty at pettycliniclowt.com.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco during the Make This the Summer event. Check out the all-new Jeeps that are arriving daily. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990. Or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling, and ramp up your summer in style with a Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, where big plans start with the perfect ride at great deals. From weekend getaways to daily drives, your next new truck, SUV, or car is waiting.
Come by, let's be friends.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
He is a great friend of the show, Matt Brown. He took a vacation, for God's sakes, like he deserves or earned that. But he continued to get stuff written and the latest extra points about how does a Division II differ from Division I, among other things as well. Hey, man, great to see you. Did you hear our conversation by any chance about the old video games with what we see now with EA Sports? Basketball is going to have 350 teams with Pong, Asteroids, Pac-Man, and Centipede.
You know, I have to be honest. I missed that, and I would love to talk more about Centipede. I will say, I thought it was really rude to go book a guest in Chicago and then have all of the pre-footage ahead of time. We have a bunch of video B-roll of Texas barbecue, which we, of course, cannot get here. Really, really, really frustrating. My Brazilian cousins, I will say, have a thing to say about barbecue tradition. This is very important in South America. It's very, very good. It's not the same thing as anything in Texas or in the Hill Country. No. And there's certainly not anything I can get up here.
No.
Matt, my dad and I and my college roommate went to Chicago one time, and we went to a place that claimed to have great baby back ribs, which Chicago I know is the home of the baby back rib, but I didn't realize they cooked them in the oven, and it was really disappointing.
No, this is a legitimately good food town, I think, for many things.
Oh, yeah.
For Mexican food, it's outstanding. For Indian food, Middle Eastern, a lot of European cuisine. For anything, I think, resembling barbecue or many of the traditions of the South, not so great.
All right, your latest extra point. How does Division II differ from Division I? Let's look at all the contracts. And you have how many contracts now in your archives for Division I? 3,000 or so? What was the number?
I have it open on the other monitor here right now because I was actually adding something to it right before we hopped on. For Division I, we have just under 7,000. And we have about a little over 800 for Division II here at the moment. So by the end of the week, it's a pretty big library.
It's NCAA. It's under the umbrella. But what are the differences, Matt?
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks who are listening to this understand on a pretty deep level that there's really good football, there's really good college sports at the Division II level, and there are schools in Texas and elsewhere that have large enrollments and support those programs a great deal. A school like a West Texas A&M, for example, based on the stuff that we're looking at, they're bringing in just as much revenue, spending just as much money as a lot of schools in Division I. There's not a big financial difference between a high-level Lone Star team and like a school in the Horizon League or maybe near at the bottom of the Southland Conference. But when you get beyond that, the jump is significant. Even if you're at a pretty small Division I institution, your athletic director is almost certainly under contract. Your coaches are usually on multi-year deals. Many of your assistant coaches are still under contract, and you have a multimedia rights partner that's helping you sell sponsorships and billboards and radio ads and everything else. And if you aren't a top 15 program in Division II, you have none of that. If you're gonna bring in money, you're selling tickets, you're hitting up both of your donors, and you're trying to figure out a way to maybe do some sponsorship sales. But the guy selling sponsorships, he's also painting the soccer field and maybe driving the volleyball bus.
Yeah,
it's a lot about trying to make great use of limited resources.
Matt, the playoff argument has gone on between the SEC and Big Ten. It continues on. Why, at this point, I get why they wouldn't, but wouldn't you not want to say, all right, let's get all the four together. Let's agree to how many conference games we play, whether it's 8 or 9, and then let's do cross-conference across everything so that we can maybe get some real momentum towards a solution here.
I think the reason that isn't happening is because there's a lot of people who have their feet really dug in deeply about not wanting to reach an agreement on many of those things. Part of the reason it's frustrating, I think, for this particular story, for me to track it, and for I think a lot of fans to track it, is this is not something where the opinion of coaches really should matter that much, because these are fundamentally financial decisions that are made above the head coach or assistant coach level, and sometimes even above the AD level. How many conference games you play and what kind of out-of-conference arrangement you end up setting up. ESPN and Fox and CBS have a lot to say about that, because there's no point in adding more inventory if people aren't going to pay for it. I get why here in my neck of the woods in Big Ten country, people are very offended at the concept of 8 SEC regular season conference games, that this is somehow immoral or cowardly. It's hard for me to care. And I am deeply excited that we're going to have football in 3.5 weeks, so we can shelve all of the stupid stuff until late November, when it's time to pretend like it matters for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee.
I think you summed that up very well. My feelings as well, and I think a lot of others who are kind of like just tired head over the whole back and forth of it all, and are very excited to have football coming back. Matt, Memphis last week created a bit of a stir when news got out about their bid to get into the Big 12, and there were some particulars to it. It wasn't $250 million or $200+ million cold cash. There was sponsorships involved and things like that, but Big 12 apparently says not interested. What do you think this says about just Memphis, the Big 12, and just the greater realignment picture right now, what they were attempting to do?
Yeah, I've seen some fans and even a couple of reporters kind of making fun of Memphis for doing this, and I can't fault them. Like, what would you want them to do? If I was a fan of anybody that wasn't currently in a power league, I would want them to knock every door and call in every corporate favor they possibly could to try and change your trajectory. I've been covering college sports full time since I think about 2011. And I want to say I've written about a Memphis proposal to the Big 12 at least 4 different times. So like this is not a new thing. It spans different presidents, different athletic directors, different administrations for everything else. What I don't know yet, and I have not had a chance to get somebody on the phone that I trust, is to understand exactly chapter and verse why Big 12 presidents and school leaders were so uninterested in this, even though it would be relatively low risk athletically and have meaningful financial upside. I have some theories. They're not things I think I want to say on the air if I can't prove them or at least source them. But I think that's interesting. The price to get into any league, honestly, even if it's a G5 to G5 league at this point, is not zero. The idea that you need to pay your own freight either through an entrance fee or a decreased media fee or some kind of sponsorship, that's not unique to the Big 12. Like that's true in FCS. That's true in other places here as well. I think this just shows how expensive it's going to be to get somebody who's not currently part of the party into a league like the Big 12 or the ACC.
Was there, or is the difference of what Memphis offered compared to what SMU did with the ACC? SMU basically said, we're not going to get paid TV money for 9 years.
Yeah.
Where Memphis still wanted to get something back, but they were willing to raise a couple $100 million with FedEx and Lowe's or whoever else. It wasn't quite the same.
No, I think what other difference from the proposals that I'm aware of was that Memphis also said, hey, if you do this and we suck and it doesn't work out, you can kick it, you can pull a Temple, you can kick us out when it's time to sign the next television deal. We're trying to bet on ourselves and make sure that you don't lose a dime by bringing you in. What my educated guess is that part of the difference is that it was timing. SMU hit up the ACC at a moment when the ACC needed another body. They were worried about the existential threat of dissolution. They really needed another institution, and SMU was going to be more palpable than anybody else that came in. Whereas Memphis is trying to join a league that doesn't need to add anybody right now. The Big 12's gotten a hell of a lot bigger already over the last couple of years. And while Memphis has a lot of money, and Memphis has some brand cachet with men's basketball, and they've been quietly a surprisingly consistent football program over multiple coaches, which is pretty different from maybe when you and I were kids. They simply don't need them. So if you're going to go add somebody that you don't need, you really need to be completely blown away. You know, it's a difference between interviewing for a job, I guess, when you already have one versus when you don't. And maybe if the timing was different, if Memphis had provided this exact thing maybe 3 years ago, maybe the response would have been a little bit different. I don't know.
We had somebody who is, I'm not going to use the name, but it was a source within the Big 12 during the time they were trying to react to Texas and OU leaving. Is Memphis, we always thought that they might have had a chance to get in if they would have said yes. But we were told that, and this is from somebody that would know, that they weren't even fifth among those that they were going to invite into the Big 12 had somebody among the top 4 said no or could not get it done. Does that surprise you?
That doesn't surprise me that much. And this is what I want to try to report out a little bit more. And it is funny because sometimes there really is a pretty big gap in the public perception about, where a school might sit within realignment. I think a good recent example was the Sacramento State that was very public and saying, look, all the money we're raising, we're bringing in Shaq for some reason. We're going to make our way to the Pac-12 in the Mountain West. Then I would talk to the consultants or talk to some ADs that were in the room. They're like, here's our list of 8 schools, and Sacramento State's not on that list. They would be much further down. I don't know if Memphis not being in that top 5 or top 4 is a reflection of their athletic facilities. I don't know if it's a reflection of academic strength. I don't know how much of it is classism. I don't know how much of it is tied to personality conflicts or personnel conflicts between leadership at that university and maybe some other ones. The answer could be all of the above. But when you have somebody that seems to meet many of the check marks on paper, not get close, and Memphis has tried this several times. I distinctly remember when I was at Fox writing a story about we brought in Justin Timberlake and we mailed everybody ribs and barbecue, and here's this gigantic 20-page proposal that we sent, and not even getting a call back. I have to think that there's something more to this situation than what it seems. And I would like to better understand what that is.
The first time around, it's because they weren't going to do it. It was just smoke and mirrors. I mean, they just threw it out there to make it seem like they were doing something. To the ACC now, they finally get the Clemson and Florida State lawsuit settled, and it's like, okay, we can just kind of float along until 2030, 2031. And then the UNC stuff pops back up during ACC Media Days because of a report of it from Inside Carolina. They said, look, very much still, their goals of the SEC and all of that. How do you think that the ACC feels about this, given that they're not even 2 months from the FSU Clemson settlement, and they already have to start, kind of throwing water out of the boat again?
Look, Jim Phillips is too polite to say something like this, but I would imagine that there's some people in Charlotte who are going to take Inside Carolina off the Christmas card list, or whoever ended up being the sources for all of that. Like, it's not exactly a surprise. I would say, there's a plan somewhere for most schools in the Big 12 and if not the ACC to say, yeah, our ultimate goal is the Big 10 or the SEC. Of course, they make $20 million more money. If we're headed towards some kind of 45-team Super League, everyone's goal is to eventually be on the other side of the cut line. So that shouldn't shock anybody. For that to get out exactly when it did, even though I don't think it's exceptionally newsworthy. I have no reason to believe that there's anything imminent or anything has meaningfully changed on that front over the last month. That makes you think that the people who are going to talk and want to get that conversation out there have some other kind of political or administrative agenda. And certainly there's a lot of different, I would not say everybody within the North Carolina extended universe athletically is on the same team. Nothing I've read or seen or talked to any of my sources would have me think we're on the verge of another P4 alignment palooza in the next couple of months. That I think that if we're seeing that, it's going to be more at the FCS level.
Matt, Super League is something that's out there. And of course, Greg Sankey said, for those who have been talking about it, welcome to the SEC Media Days, because of course, we know what the SEC is and how powerful. If, in fact, they went to a Super League, how many teams is the magic number? And will conferences who actually have protected those who have not been as strong, who are Power 4 conferences, turn their back on longtime members?
I legitimately, I think I've written this a couple of times. I think if we get to a world where there is a Super League, I believe it is more likely there is no more Big 10 or SEC. There is no more Big 12 or ACC for football. There is just the Super League. Mm-hmm. And then you can't draft off of being Ohio State's friend back in 1918 to necessarily be in this kind of entity. It's can you stand? Does your fan base and your television market and your history and your reach stand on itself? And if you dissolve the Power 4 football conferences and create something in different, I think there's a pretty good chance that probably doesn't include Northwestern and Indiana. Or Vanderbilt or Mississippi State. To whether we're talking about 60 teams or 40 teams or 48 teams or 32 teams, a lot of that is going to depend on Congress and on who is bankrolling this potential Super League. You're going to limit your antitrust exposure the more schools that you have into it. But the maths is going to be different, whether the backing agent is CBS or private equity or the Saudi Arabian government or the moon or who knows who else. I don't think it's coming next week or anything, but
no.
It could it happen before 2030? Sure. I think it's possible.
Yeah. The TV network renegotiations always seem to start something, college football conference realignment or something major. So we'll see what happens there. Matt, thank you very much. What's your next newsletter? You want to tease it?
I think the next big thing that folks here are going to be interested in, besides the return of the Extra Points Bowl, we're going to share some more information about what that's going to look like. If we were talking about video game news before you brought me on, when I was in Brazil, broke the story, the college basketball games coming back. Mm-hmm. I would say stay tuned. I'm working on some more updates on that project that I think will be interesting to people.
Thank you, buddy. Always great to have you. It's a great newsletter. I subscribe to it. Matt Brown, Extra Points with us on 365 Sports.
It's been a little while since we talked to him, so good to have Matt on as always, and nice timing as well. I think with some newsy pieces of stories out there the last few days, the video game and obviously all the realignment stuff. And yeah, I think the UNC thing it wasn't about that was anything new. It was just the timing of it was so peculiar. Because you can do all the speculation about what happens to the ACC. People have been doing that for like 2 years already.
Yeah.
We've talked about it from time to time, but at a certain point, like nothing's happening. And it's like, we can talk about this in a couple years when it actually matters, not like, years ahead of time, but it's fun to riff about. So like, yeah, none of that was actually new that like, oh, the ACC might be in trouble. That's duh.
Yeah.
But it was just like, so after everything chills out, and at the most quiet moment at the very end of your media days, now they decide to say something out of nowhere and like just kick the hornet's nest. Like, what was the purpose of that? So I do think there are dueling parties in North Carolina probably, and those that want to shake things up and keep it on top of mind. And like that group of people decided like, hey, this is a perfect time. No one's like, there's not a pin dropping. You could hear it for miles. Let's just throw this out there again,
So if I had to compare what I think North Carolina's power group is like, Clemson all agreed that we're going to just shut up. We'll sue, but we're not going to go out there and squawk about how terrible the league is. We just want to get paid more money. We know that we'll be fine. Florida State very much decided to squawk, and they use their playoff snub as an excuse to get louder.
Yeah, for sure.
As where North Carolina, like, Florida State unified in squawking. Clemson unified in saying, let's let Florida State do the squawking. UNC is torn between people that are like, look, we're all kind of on the same page here, but we just like to, stay in the car until the exit shows up. As where, this other part is just like, no, I like what FSU did. Let's squawk. And I think those are the people feeding the inside Carolinas of the world.
Yeah, because there was nothing new as far as like, oh, there's been discussions. I think anybody who's followed realignment knows, like, you always just assume there's discussions going on. And Matt brought it up there. We said it last week. Like, name a Big 12 school or a school from any league. Have they had discussions unofficially with somebody in regards to possibly moving to a different league? Yes. Any one of them has had at least done some footwork on like groundwork, on trying to figure out where they might have to be in 5 or 10 years. If you're not, then you're completely asleep at the wheel.
They should get fired.
Yeah, you're completely asleep at the wheel. So if you're Kansas and you haven't looked into, can we get into the SEC? Can we get into the Big Ten? If you're not Arizona State or TCU or just anybody, and not even in the Big 12, anywhere, unless you're already in the 2 leagues, obviously, then yeah, I don't know what you're even doing. And I think everybody looks at 2030-ish and goes, okay, that's where the world might completely change. But I do think what he said there, as far as like something kind of new and fresher, the idea of almost Cody Campbell, like stripping away conferences and doing all that, that's a super league.
Yeah.
This garbage that people have been talking about for 2 years where it's like, it's just the AFC and the NFC and it's the Big Ten and that is not a freaking super league, in my opinion. And I know it's just my opinion that there's different definitions of it, but to me, no, super league is not, what would that be like? 36 teams, including a bunch of schools that I would piss off by naming them, but the usual suspects. There's like 8 of them that are basically drafting off of, like Matt said, the success of Alabama or whoever. So I do think that if you're talking about an actual super league, that is more in line with what I would think. And I don't think you would be like, you're in the Big 12 and you're in the ACC and you're like, that would be your division or something like that maybe, but
it would be the East, West, North, and South.
Yeah,
it would something like that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like leagues.
But if you do that, the last thing you want if you're UT and OU is to put in a division with anybody you just left.
Yeah,
and that would be interesting.
Unless you're not like totally in bed with all of those same schools. Like if it was a situation, I know we're getting way down here, but if like, yeah, you're still a part of the big club, but now you may have to play Texas Tech or Baylor or somebody every once in a while. Well, what are you getting in return? Are you getting $1 billion? Then you're going to do it and you're going to shut up and be happy about it. But I do think there are schools who fought very hard to get into those leagues that would not be happy with suddenly going, what do you mean these leagues aren't going to be these leagues anymore? So that's something that could be of interest further down the line, much further down the line. I did make mention to y'all off the air yesterday. I finally went around after the Memphis story last week and I watched a couple of videos from Memphis people. I mentioned Chris Vernon being one of those guys. And I don't know did I say this on the show yesterday? Maybe at the end, but they brought up the story as it was breaking, and the original headline came out, and it was like, Memphis will pay Big 12 $200 million or whatever. And they just saw the headline, and one of Chris Vernon's co-hosts starts celebrating. Dude's like going crazy because clearly he's read like half the headline and doesn't realize that they're not getting into the Big 12.
Yeah.
It was just they're trying to get into the Big 12. So after they settled down for a second and realized, no, this is not happening like you thought when you originally saw it, they started reading the details of it. And these are like as Memphis proud as you can probably get and find. And they got into the part of, well, it would be $100 and something million spread over 16 schools. Memphis wouldn't take any pay, blah, blah, blah. And they started doing the math, and they broke it down to where it's like $2 million per school. And they go, oh, yeah, they're not going to do that.
No.
They wouldn't do that at all. And so, like, you have the people who are as pro, like, wanting Memphis to, and the whole time, said co-host, who was originally the most excited one, is just trashing the American. And, like, we got to get out of this, making fun of the new mascot, Soar, and just not really a big fan of the American. So, yeah, it was just interesting to see that reaction of, like, all this excitement and then the realization of, oh, wait, that's not exactly what's happening. And then to get to the part about the money, and for people who you think would be upset and probably still are, just going, oh, yeah, I totally get where the Big 12 is coming from. They're not going to do that deal. So it was pretty simple.
Yeah, no, and when you look at the details, and Matt wrote about it, and so did, I got a note from our good friend, Jim Williams, who was on with us earlier in the year about Memphis and some of the things. And unfortunately, some of what we've said, it's still there. But, yeah, if you look at the deal for a couple of million a year, no. And some in the chat room mentioned, then you're adding yet another G5 school, which is really all that's left, really.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no one else left but those.
You just took a big gamble all because of perception this offseason with the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to go and add another team who gives you, 4 former American schools in the league and gives you a quarter of your conference is now former American schools or / independent.
And BYU and Utah used to be a part of what was not Power 5. But Utah, of course.
TCU wasn't in Power 5 a few years ago. But,
yeah.
I mean, just the point being that all of a sudden you look up and you went from grabbing a few schools to like a quarter of your league's made up of those same schools. And so, yeah, you can't really justify – it's like the Pac trying to pretend like, hey, we're still a power league. And it's like, nah, not really, because most of your league's now made up of and so that's kind of where I think the Big 12 had to probably go perception-wise. Is this a good idea? And then financially, hey, $2 million is great, but is it worth all of the trouble that you'd have to go to? But, I mean, it's still appealing when you think about, like, not taking any TV money and all that. Like, I commend Memphis, and I will continue to. And if I was a Memphis alum or fan, I would be very happy with them just trying to pound away and finally break through. And I'm sure they aren't done. I'm sure they will continue to try. I don't know what else they can pull up at this point, but I commend them for at least trying.
The differences between SMU to the ACC and Memphis to the Big 12, SMU agreed to forego all media rights for 9 years, effectively self-funding its entry. Clean, strategic sacrifice that stabilized, as we just heard from Matt. Also, the ACC needed a little bit of help, too.
That was a big
Memphis,
difference.
Reportedly offered that $200 to $250 million in sponsorships and incentives, including relinquishing revenue for 5 years, with backup from FedEx and others. While generous, the proposal came across as transactional, as a buy-in rather than a partnership.
Yeah, so there's some differences there, but I think the biggest difference is just the need. The ACC needed SMU. They needed something like that, and the Big 12 doesn't need Memphis or someone like that right now. They might in the future. Now, if there's some scenario where all of a sudden, like, whatever the Super League concept is, what if it's like 48 or something, and then you're going, okay, Kansas and Oak State and TCU and West Virginia and Arizona State, then you're going to have to backfill and do all that. But again, that's further down the line, and it may not even come to that. So if I'm Memphis, I'm just staying prepared as much as possible. All you can do is keep trying and just hope that one day you finally break through. But it will. If they don't get into a power league, it will not be for lack of effort, and you can sleep well at night, at least knowing that.
All right. When we come, I just looked online. Atari for how much was that? I'm going to keep looking at that deal. I just saw it. What was it? $79. including, it doesn't say Pong, but the games that we mentioned earlier from the 1970s. The 2 joysticks, too. I've kind of always liked just the 1 joystick myself. When we come back, we have a couple of things to get to, including, am I right? Coaches on the hot seat.
Yep.
That's
this
next.
time you are.
This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club went over there. I've been over there 2 or 3 times to meet the new general manager, Nick Colwell. He's done a great job. They're doing a lot of remodeling. You go there for several reasons. One, maybe to go to McLean Stadium for a football game, which is rocking on Saturday, and that game with Auburn's going to be interesting to see how packed, and that isn't always the case, but how packed it will be for that game. Arizona State, among others. But also, it's a membership. It's a club. It's an unbelievable, restaurant inside McLean Stadium. But other amenities, too. The food is unbelievable. The chefs are incredible. I love it when they put out a, hey, come taste something we're going to add to the menu type of deal. And then, of course, the food is delicious, whether it's for lunch or dinner, special occasions. And, they were locked in when it came to Mother's Day and Father's Day and other particular events and traditions that go along with that. Plus, it's great for luncheons, business meetings, symposiums. We have a banquet we host there every May for the academic all-stars and those great student athletes around the area. The Baylor Club, tell them we sent you from 365 Sports. There's always a little extra nugget for you when it comes to mentioning us at the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Ryan Mulvaney around the corner, legal issues, questions, etc. And Right now, we're going to look at guys who might need an attorney. If, in fact, they all have one, an agent, etc. Coaches on the 2025 Coaches Hot Seat. This from our good friend Ari Wasserman at On3.com. Hugh Freeze, we discussed some stories with them at the start of the show. I was surprised to see Billy Napier at the top. I know that he was a year ago at this time. I thought he pretty much answered the bell thanks to DJ Lagway, but that could turn south quickly. We'll see. But Napier, Venables, Hugh Freeze, Auburn is a no-nonsense. If they don't like you, you're done. They have all the money, it seems like, in the world, too. And then down the list, Pittman, Brennan, two coaches in the Big 12 with Brent Brennan, Arizona, and Cincinnati, Scott Satterfield.
Yeah, all four of the top guys in the SEC, and partially because those are really huge. Arkansas is a big job. I'm not trying to knock Arkansas, but Florida, Oklahoma, and Auburn opening up would just supersede any other jobs that are opening up if those guys really do get fired. I think Venables will be fine because I think he fixed his quarterback problem. If DJ Lagway is out for any kind of a stretch, then the Gators are in trouble, and they may just say, look, you had Lagway, but if you don't have Lagway, you're not very good, and you can't hang all your hopes on one thing, and this has been too much of a roller coaster. And look, since Urban Meyer's left, he is in the expiration date for most of the rest of them. If it's Will Muschamp, if it's Jim McElwain, whoever it is, 4 years, Dan Mullen, 5 years, it's about the expiration date for a Florida coach who hasn't, won an SEC title yet. So he better get busy because they're not going to want to sit and wait around much longer there in Gainesville. Hugh Freeze just has to show something on offense this year, and I think he'll be all right. Sam Pittman, though, to me, a very interesting one. If rounding out the SEC before we get some of the other ones.
The first thing I thought was, why are there not a couple of names on this list? And I went to see Ari, went and looked at his account, and I guess there were a couple people that asked this question as well. And there are 3 names that apparently were not put on this list that most people would have assumed could be on this list. And the reason he cited was because of their buyouts. So I guess he's trying to be realistic with this list. And I can appreciate that, because the easy thing to do would be to put Lincoln Riley at number 1 and just have the fanfare and the discourse that would come with that. But contractually, maybe that's not actually all that realistic. So that's why he is not on there, although you would certainly think the pressure is ratcheting up in Los Angeles. The other name, or one of the other names mentioned as to not on here for contractual reasons, Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, who, man, had that great playoff run with Cincinnati, and I feel like I haven't heard anything about him ever since. And I'm a little hyperbole there, but they're kind of just there, so to speak. Wisconsin. So I guess contractually he's still okay. And then the third one that he mentioned was not mentioned because of contract was Mike Norvell at Paul's Florida State University. So we know he's feeling some heat, although 2 years ago you were right there on the verge of one of the greatest seasons ever. So I really don't think he's on much of a hot seat. And so I wouldn't have included him to begin with. Lincoln Riley, I don't know how folks feel out there, because I don't know how many of them actually care, honestly. And Fickell, I think Wisconsin fans care, but I guess just money-wise, there's not much you can do about it.
Norvell would have to repeat 2 and 10 to make them go, let's get this money together.
I don't think he should be on the list, but people asking about him, he didn't mention him because of contract at least.
But now, if he repeats last year, then
when did he have his contract redone?
After he almost got the Alabama job, it was down to him and Kalen DeBoer, so
and then he went 2 and 10.
He went 2 and 10. So, part of me was like, they should have let him go. But then, look, things happen. I think it's different. It was such a unique situation, but they're not on the list for a reason.
I think Florida State making a choice over the last 2 years would have been stupid to do. I think there's just too much uncertainty to go from an injury preventing you from getting into the playoff when you deserve to be in the playoff versus then the emotional fallout and hangover from all of that, plus just not being as good of a team by a country mile So you can't say like it's this or it's that. It's too extreme. You have to give him more time and see what it really is because, I mean, I think any decision in the last year would have been so knee-jerk and ridiculous.
Well, and one of the things that he did that, kind of highlights the way that roster building is done through the portal now is he thought, okay, we went out and got these short-term 2-year, 1-year rentals like Keon Coleman and Trey Benson and, Jaheim Bell and all that. What if we had those guys for 3 years guaranteed? And so he went out and got guys like Jaylen Brown and all that were high recruits, 4- and 5-star guys at one point, but hadn't played all that much and early on in their careers. And turns out there was a reason that they hadn't, and it didn't work out. And then he, it just kind of all collapsed on him at once. So to say like he messed up 1 year when he perfectly played the transfer portal before. So he's done it 2 ways. It's like blackjack. He just hit too many times.
No, it was a nightmare what happened. And he has earned at least this year, but if they, like you said, 3-9, 2-10, you probably will be writing a check from you too.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of on the guys that aren't on this list. I don't think there's any surprises on this list. I don't think this isn't something that hasn't been discussed ad nauseum for college football fans and their friends or message board folks throughout the last few months, because it's always one of the hotter topics and how we kind of take on conversations in the offseason. The hot seat inevitably comes up a few times. So I don't see anything new here, just looking it up and down, other than just like we're getting primed now to really see like, are these guys going to be coaching their final seasons or not? But, Napier, I mean, this has been an ongoing discussion for a while now. I think the general sentiment that I walk away from is that a lot of Florida fans feel like they're going to be pretty good this year. Mm-hmm. Now, the Lagway thing throws that into a little bit of, if he's really not healthy. But I think people feel good about him being able to save his job with the record that they'll end up with by the end of the year. I think Venables has had a lot of bad luck, and I'm not super high on him at this point, but I do think he needs more time. And last year, you just couldn't account for the receiver injuries and just how all that, the transition into the SEC, I just think that was a lot to have to deal with. But he's been allowed to make pretty much every change one can make to a program. So it better pay off, or there's not really anywhere to look after that. And then I think like Brennan, that's pretty obvious. Satterfield, he was confident in Big 12 Media Days.
Yeah, he was.
So I'm rolling with his confidence and think he'll be okay. But that's pretty much who I thought I'd see on here.
All right, we're now joined by Ryan Mulvaney, sports, law, litigation, and more, who has been in deposition, in fact, and joins us now on 365 Sports. It's been a while, Ryan. Thanks for your time. How was your day today?
Smokey, how are you? Great to be back. It went well. Deposition day 2 finally concluded in New York City, and I'm now back in New Jersey.
All right, well, glad to have you back on the show. When they, the College Sports Commission changed some of their I guess you could say how NIL collectives are looked at with the House settlement, were you surprised at what the decision was, and is there still a problem with it in the end?
Well, I guess 2 decisions. First was the quote-unquote guidance or purported guidance that CSC, the College Sports Commission, issued, which effectively said NIL collectives are a no-no. They do not serve a valid business purpose under the College Sports Commission guidelines. And within days, they reversed course, walked that back. And no, I'm not surprised by that at all. NIL collectives arguably serve valid business purposes. And look, some don't. Let's not pretend that some don't, but some do. So I think an uphill battle for CSC to contend that all NIL collectives across the board do not constitute a valid business purpose.
Ryan, this is Paul Catalina. Every other time you've been on this show, I've been on vacation. So I'm very excited to talk to you.
Oh, damn. I should have scheduled him for September.
Yeah. But I'm very enthusiastic to ask you this question, because I've asked a lot of reporters this, but never an attorney like you. Isn't valid business purpose what I, as a business owner, determine it to be, as long as it is within the laws of the state and the country that I live in?
Paul, I'm glad you and I are speaking about this very issue. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to speak about it before, but you are 100% correct. And by the way, I'll take that even a step further. So is fair market value of compensation, right? If an NIL collective wants to pay you, Paul, $2 million to attend XYZ university because you are a skilled athlete and your NIL value is through the roof, then that is the business judgment of the NIL collective. Could it pay you $1.5 million? Sure. Could it pay you $1 million? Sure. It has elected to pay you $2 million. So who's to say that in the exercise of business judgment, just like any other business, it shouldn't pay you what it believes you are valued at?
Well, I mean, because I can think of plenty of bad ideas that big companies have had that have cost them that seem invalid, but they weren't illegal. They were just dumb. So, like, yeah, I could pay you $1 million and you could not live up to that as an athlete, but that just means I made a bad call and not that I'm breaking some sort of law.
And to go back to your original point, yes, there are NIL collectives that do in fact serve a valid business purpose. And what are those purposes? To raise awareness and attention to the program, to the university, to athletics as a whole. I mean, I represent, and I'm lucky to represent, the Penn State University Women's Volleyball Booster Club, which is a NIL collective that now supports and has supported for many, many years, long before NIL, the women's volleyball team at Penn State, the indeed national champions. There are valid business purposes for what it and other collectives do. Appearances, autograph signings, endorsements, and they even broker some endorsements. So to suggest that NIL collectives serve zero valid business purposes, as the CSC tried to do, to me, that's an overreach.
So can we get to collective bargaining, Ryan? And is it something that eventually, it's like the four-letter word, or some don't want to say they want it, and some would, if in fact, would that end most of the problems? And why can't it be a part of college athletics? Great question.
And look, I'm not a labor law expert, but we do have labor lawyers here at the firm, and I've posed this question to them often. I mean, this is a topic of conversation here at the firm. And look, my understanding of this, and it's a very basic understanding, is that the National Labor Relations Act and the National Labor Relations Board applies only to a certain subset of what I'll call the universities, right? There are exceptions to the NLRA. So some schools would be covered by this. Other schools, such as those schools that have a religious base, like my alma mater, Seton Hall University, a Catholic institution, it wouldn't apply to Seton Hall and some other universities. Private universities, public universities, sure. But there are so many colleges and universities in B1 that I think a broad stroke across the board, that now suddenly we have a collective bargaining agreement among all member institutions across the country in D1. That may be hard to implement, particularly because I said, if the NLRA does and does not apply to certain schools. I think it might have to be on a conference by conference basis. But look, something needs to be done. And I say this from the athlete perspective, right? I mean, I've had the opportunity to represent schools. I've had the opportunity to represent college athletes, and I've obviously had the opportunity to represent NIL collectives in this space. And I come at this from the perspective of often the athlete. And as we've seen over the last week or two with President Trump's executive order, with the introduction of the SCORE Act in Congress, the executive order, the SCORE Act, is legislation it to me appears to be drafted in favor of the NCAA, in favor of the member institutions, and look, certainly because they have a pretty heavy lobby. For collective we have this in the NBA. I'm an NBA agent, right? So we have a collective bargaining agreement that addresses issues between management and the players. There must be something to that effect across college athletics. The athletes need a seat at the table. They frankly needed a seat at the table for purposes of this executive order. They needed a seat at the table for purposes of the introduction of the SCORE Act, which I don't see. Now, I know there have been a number of hearings before Congress, and some athletes have attended, but you can't tell me that, particularly with the executive order, that Coach Saban didn't have a hand in drafting this. We know that he obviously is very close with the president and has been appointed to what we thought was going to be a committee in charge of college athletics. But look, something needs to be done in terms of collective bargaining, in terms of protecting the athletes and giving the athletes a real seat at the table.
One of the things that confuses me about at least the early version of the SCORE Act, Ryan, is that it the state laws thing is a very valid point. Look, they need to figure out a way, to wrangle in why it's different. Look, if you're an NBA agent, if you're telling a guy, okay, we've got this offer from Brooklyn, we got this offer from Orlando, but the rules in Florida and New York for professional athletes outside of taxation are completely wild and different. Yeah, they need to rein that in. But it seems like it's also trying to roll back a lot of the court cases that they lost, which to me would then get them more in court. Is now we're not even just suing the NCAA. Now people are going to be suing Congress and all these other things because or suing over this law because it rolls back things that people have already ruled on.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. Look, the SCORE Act, among other things, tries to grant an antitrust exemption to the NCAA and member institutions so that they don't have to face countless antitrust lawsuits as they have faced over the last 4 or 5 years. That's a problem. And if you noted in researching the SCORE Act and its proposed provisions, you would also see that literally every major sports players association has come out again granting antitrust exemption to college athletics and to the NCAA, the NFLPA, the NHLPA, MLS, Major League Soccer Players Association, my own NBA Players Association, and most notably, Major League Baseball Players Association, which coincidentally is the only professional sport that has been granted antitrust exemption. So even MLB came out, at least the Players Association, and said, no, not a good idea. And why isn't it a good idea? Because it effectively provides the green light for the NCAA, the member institutions, to collude against the college athletes, which arguably they've been doing for decades.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. Ryan, there's the AD at Pacific University, Adam Chor, when that deal came down from the College Sports Commission handling NIL collectives, he said, I'll go ahead and say it. And he attached Charlie Baker, the NCAA, and others. This is a false bill of sale. You both sold us and every member institution of the 28 other conferences on the House settlement and its parameters, and then they never contacted those 28 conferences when they decided to resolve the dispute. Is there anything legal that they might have, those other conferences, or not? Because they're going to pay equally this huge revenue share or this the lawsuit that are going to go to the athletes.
Yeah, we're talking about the opportunity to either opt in or opt out.
Yes.
Yeah. So some of the universities obviously have they all had the opportunity to elect to opt in to revenue sharing or opt out. Whether Pacific or other universities can take legal action, I'm not going to give legal advice at the moment on that issue. But look, my own university had the opportunity to consider what opting into revenue share, the revenue sharing landscape would mean for it. And I would suspect all universities across B1 undertook that analysis. What does it mean for us if we opt in? And look, there are some serious issues and consequences that have resulted from opting into revenue sharing. We obviously see the roster limitations and that being implemented. We see not only college athletes losing roster spots and opportunities, but we also see members of athletic departments losing their own jobs. We see things like that happen. We see sports being eliminated, right? Whether you want to call them non-revenue producing, you want to call them Olympic sports, whatever it might be. Those are the unintended consequences, certainly, of opting into revenue sharing. And look, if there's any good from the executive order from President Trump, it's the fact that he reaffirms the commitment to non-revenue producing sports and reaffirms the commitment to Olympic sports as well as to women's sports. And look, it's the executive order is not law. Not to get into a separation of powers and constitutional law analysis here, but Congress creates, executive enforces, and the judiciary interprets. So, what does the import of the executive order really mean? Not much at the moment. It just expresses the policy of the current administration and instructs certain agencies, whether the Department of Labor or the Department of Education, to enact some policies that have been expressed in the executive order.
Yeah, Ryan, I can see you did well in civics or government or whatever they called it at your high school, as where a lot of people see these things. And I saw a lot of sports writers reacting to it. And I was like, you guys failed government class, didn't you? When it came to the EO and how it works, because again, you just described very basically how it does. Do you think that there is some bipartisanship on this, at least in certain issues, enough to get something done? Because it is chaotic. The problem would seem to me to be is that each side thinks that the chaos is caused by something different.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I mean, for anything to be done nowadays, that in and of itself is an uphill battle. I would obviously like to see bipartisan support of something. What that is, I don't know. What that's going to look like at the end, I don't know. I'd like to be involved in the process. I mean, certainly the athletes need somebody at the table. If not me, then somebody else. There are a number of people who I call colleagues of our industry who would be well suited and uniquely situated to have a seat at that table. As for the SCORE Act, I understand its ultimate, I don't want to say passage, but movement through Congress is also an uphill battle. I understand that there are some Democratic senators and Democratic members of the House who are not particularly on board with it. First problem is the antitrust exemption. Second problem is that it weighs against the college athlete. So will we see something down the road, a bipartisan effort? I'm sure. What that will look like, I don't know, and I can't hazard a guess.
Has there ever been more on the table when it comes to sports law than now?
Oh, good question. Not in recent memory. It seems like the last 5 years have been crammed into a month.
Yes,
2 months.
Absolutely.
Everything changes so fast and so quickly. Look, it's part of the reason why I enjoy it. It is ever changing, particularly the last few years, but it is certainly fast paced. And look, every passing day there's a new lawsuit. We have 3-4 appeals to the final approval of the House settlement itself. Those appeals, if they haven't been consolidated already, I know there's an effort to consolidate them. And you still have the lawsuits challenging eligibility, which are being filed across the country almost every week.
I'd like to ask you one more question. I know you've had a long day. When you go, I've been in a deposition one time. If you go into a deposition, what are the expectations, and is it no nonsense, or how does that work, Ryan? Whether you have a client that you're defending or someone who you are a part of a lawsuit against?
Well, so if it's a client I'm representing, typically less is more during examination. But also, look, I would counsel clients that you're not going to go into the deposition and win the day. You're not going to win the case in a deposition. You could potentially do do damage to your cause. So you need to be very careful. You need to be very precise and thoughtful in your testimony. And today I was examining the witness in the deposition, and look, it's as if you are in court. In fact, that's one of the instructions that we give at the beginning of a deposition. You are under oath. You're sworn under oath by the court reporter, no different than you would be if you were on the stand. And the process is taken very, very seriously. Now, during breaks, during lunch, you may have casual conversation with the lawyers, of course. But once the bell is rung, so to speak, it's all serious, all business.
Thank you, buddy. It's great to have you on anytime we can, Ryan. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Smokey. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate the opportunity as always.
Ryan Mulvaney, lawyer, litigation, sports, NCAA, NIL entertainment at Stevens and Lee. And as we have mentioned before when we first had him on, and he mentioned this too, an agent for some players in the National Basketball Association. When we come back, we'll get a couple of nuggets to, before we get to the 5 o'clock hour, Doug LeMarie. He is a part of King of the North. One of the stories or podcasts that he's been a part of is, when did the flow of power, even though the Big Ten has won the last two national titles, how and when did it all flow to what it seemed like is Southeast as heavy as far as the talent and more? How did that occur? When did it occur? And much more. We'll have him on today. Also, Matt McChesney. Man, I saw a little clip he put out from about a week or so ago. And, man, he was mad about, it was, who's the former NFL player who was suspended or fired for helping out somebody in high school? Who was that, Paul?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Greg? Teddy Bridgewater, yes. He's hot about that. We'll discuss a lot of things with Matt, including the news about Dion getting through, at least right now, where he is after bladder cancer, what that means to the program and former Buffalo's players. This is 365 Sports. As I started back earlier this year to try to maintain my weight, lose a little bit of that because I'd gained 8 to 10 pounds. So I just didn't feel that great. My lower back was still bothering me. Then it was the shoulder, and I don't run anymore. It's just not something I can do because of my hip, but I can walk, jog. And I've started doing that basically every morning, even occasionally on the weekend. So that's what I've been doing, walking, jogging 3 miles, still going to the gym, and then having whatever else is available to me because of all the equipment they have. It's amazing. Inside Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. Lost weight, felt good, maintained it. I'm down to 188 to 192. And remember, my journey started a long time ago at just over 280 pounds. And now there's a brand new equipment called Synergy 360 in the weight room. This thing is a beast, an 800-pound gorilla. Check it out. 3 cable systems, a single-arm low row, adjustable rebounder, straight pull-up bar, battle rope, and more. And any of the trainers there can help guide you and demonstrate for you. It is phenomenal. That's where you get yourself in a position to be fit, lose weight, feel better about yourself every day. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
365 Sports. We are 3 days away from ending all of the Power 4 schedules and 3 away from finishing up the SEC, the Southeastern Conference. And we hit the University of Texas, the Horns, who, like a lot of others, hit the practice field today. Craig?
Yes, here we are getting close to the end finally after an all summer long and really most of spring exercise down to the final 3. And then I'm off to vacation. And maybe you'll see me again one day. Maybe you won't. We'll all solve that mystery here in a couple of weeks. But we'll be glad to get this done. And so let's get to it. Texas on the docket today, and obviously coming off of a very successful 2024 season that saw them get into the semifinals of the college football playoff. Once again, just a step away from getting into the national championship game, but fell to Ohio State in dramatic fashion. Had the big win over Arizona State in the Peach Bowl in overtime. Had to hang on by the skin of their teeth, basically, in that game. Had the big win at home over Clemson. So, I mean, that playoff alone, like that's just crazy to me. Look, that's 3 games in the playoff alone. We're so used to 4 teams.
Yeah, Clemson, Arizona State, and then, and then
Ohio you get State. Beat by Ohio State. So, just pretty crazy. Obviously had the lost to Georgia in the regular season as well as in the championship game. But Texas, a very, very good season and just a step away from being exactly where they would like to be there at the end of the year. So what are they looking at as far as 2025? How do they improve on 13-3 and getting into the semis of the college football playoff? Well, that'll be more for a preview. As far as the schedule goes, here's what they'll have to contend with. Ohio State, again, right there out of the gates, this game in Columbus, Ohio on Saturday, August the 30th. So the way that they ended their season is how they will begin their season. So that's pretty unique and not something that we've seen all that often, if ever, in this exercise, except for, Ohio State, it wouldn't have been that way because Ohio State kept playing. So they didn't they didn't turn around and play their team. So maybe Texas is unique in that way. I don't know. But at Ohio State, it's a hell of a way to kick things off there in week 1. Then on September the 6th, get into the rest of their non-con. And for Texas, unlike a lot of these other SEC teams, they actually play all 4 of their non-cons at the front of their schedule. There's no SEC special in the back end in mid-November like there are for some other teams. There's no back and forth like there has been for a couple of teams we've done here recently. It's all 4 non-cons and then all 8 SEC games. So at Ohio State, then hosting San Jose State in week 2, hosting UTEP in week 3, and hosting Sam Houston in week 4. So they said, hey, we're playing Ohio State on the road. We're going to play whoever after that. And that's basically what they're doing because, they're not going to be all that threatened by any of those other 3 whatsoever. So they're either going to be 4-0 or 3-1 after the first month of the season.
So to their credit, they don't play an SEC special late in the year.
Yeah.
And look, I kind of agree with their thing. Of all the things I would ever say terrible about the University of Texas that are all deserved. But of all those things, I'm never going to really stomp on their schedule too much because
hell no, or I'll fight you. I'm telling you, I'm going to pick up for them.
They've been doing it the right way longer than anybody else.
Yep.
And
I agree.
I'll tell you that if you ask most Texas people, do you want to play a 9th conference game? They're not going to cry about it. Like they're fine with it. They're fine. Like Oklahoma the same way. I think Texas and OU, if they played 9 conference games.
He brought
forever.
it up this time, not me.
But they, they wouldn't cry about it. And so we're talking about the schedule, so might as well talk about this. But they're playing Ohio State. And that takes some gumption to go do. So we want more teams to do that. So I'm not going to crap on them for that. And look, not only that, Ohio State tried to bend this game all around to favor themselves all they want.
Yep.
And Texas is like, well, why would we do that? Why in the world? Oh, well, we don't want it to be a noon kick Eastern time.
Do you not know
like,
that if there's anybody more almighty than Texas, it might be Ohio State?
Yeah, and they're like, no, we're not. No. We have no incentive to do that. So, can't wait for that game, though. Absolutely can't wait. So, super happy that the Baylor game got moved, that Baylor-Auburn game got moved to Friday night so that
you can watch that one.
I can go to the Baylor-Auburn game and then watch that one.
So there's the non-con for Texas. Then they take a break the last week of September after playing their full non-con. And San Jose State, I gave them a glance. They're respectable. I mean, they're not nobody, but as opposed to Texas, they are. And they've won 7 games consistently here as of late, but it's been a while since they've been much better than that. So, Texas should be 4-0. 3-1 bare minimum, and then they get into all SEC play, which I do like about this schedule. I don't know why we wouldn't like that for everybody else. I mean, the SEC special thing I've coined now and brought up on a regular basis, and some of them have an excuse and some because they play somebody tough in the non-con, but I just don't like. We've seen some schedules where it's like back and forth the entire year. I love just you play your non-con. And then you play all your conference games. And I get there's rivalry games that maybe you can't do that Georgia Tech. That's an exception. FSU, Florida. That's an exception.
At the very end.
But it's at the very end. It should be at the very end, not like middle November. Like that's the problem that I have. So anyways, starting off the SEC schedule, they will have a bye in between. So their first bye is after that Sam Houston game. And then they head to the Swamp to take on Billy Napier and the Florida Gators on October the 4th. So trip to the Swamp for Texas. And I know we probably talked about it at some point in time, and maybe next year when I get more of a grasp on kind of what worked and what didn't with doing this segment, get into some of the more particulars as far as the fact that I believe this is only the second time Texas has ever gone to Gainesville, and it's the first time since 1940.
Yep.
So you're talking right as World War I's kicking off, basically, was the last time that Texas has been to the Swamp. So that's pretty cool. Then Oklahoma the following week, neutral site there in Dallas, real Dallas, not Arlington is Dallas or is rich. No, real Dallas.
The Cotton Bowl.
Real Dallas Cotton Bowl. Then it is on the road to take on a Stoops, just not the one that they were nemesis with for so long, but his brother Mark and the Kentucky Wildcats. They're in Lexington. and then back-to-back road games. But if you were going to take back-to-back road games, I think this is the back-to-back road games you would take because they go to Starkville to take on Mississippi State. So 3 out of their 4 games in the month of October are on the road, at Florida, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, and then Oklahoma there right after the Gators. And then one more week before they hit their second bye, they'll start the month of November, Saturday, November 1st, against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt in Austin. So their first true SEC home game doesn't occur until November the 1st, which is very interesting. So, yeah, that's a unique part of having that neutral site with Oklahoma. So we'll leave it there because then they get into their second bye week. But that second chapter of 3, at Florida, Oklahoma, neutral site, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Austin.
Yeah, I remember thinking about last year, their schedule, because all these games were at home, and now it's flipped. This is what makes it tougher is that they do have to go on the road quite a bit. 2 thoughts, fellas, make sure you get your shots before you go into Gainesville, especially tetanus. You never know what's going to happen. It's a dirty, disgusting place. And will Jeff Lebby have the courage to castrate a bull like Jackie Sherrill did in front of his team the last time, I believe, Texas went to Starkville?
No. No.
Very interesting motivational tactic by Jackie Sherrill.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Smoky?
Yeah. Did it work?
No, it did not. Texas won the game.
The poor bull.
Yeah, I mean, they played in, last year, obviously, and then, 98 in the Cotton Bowl. And then what would you be referring to all the way back in,
It's in the early 90s.
So it would have been, 91 Starkville. 13-6 Mississippi State, 92, 28-10 Mississippi State in Austin. So one of those games, I suppose.
Yeah, one of those games that Jackie Sherrill castrated a bull to,
I think I've heard that story, but
yeah,
I don't think that's going to be happening with Jeff Lebby. So then into the regular rest of the month of November after the Vanderbilt game, it is Saturday, November the 15th at Georgia. So going between the hedges, that's a big game there. Saturday, November 22nd, home against Arkansas, and then to close things out, their only non-Saturday game, Black Friday against Texas A&M. And the return trip to Austin after going and winning in College Station in thrilling fashion, dominant fashion, actually. Last year, that's already been announced as a Black Friday night game, 6:30 kick on ABC for A&M and Texas. So there is the schedule for Texas in 2025.
Let me tell you something. In just the last 2 years, they have played Georgia twice, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma twice, Clemson, Florida, and A&M twice will be part of it too. They are not afraid to play people. We've mentioned that before. This is interesting. This is interesting because of the road games, kind of a break with what you said earlier, depending on what Vanderbilt ends up being, because Pavia said they're going to run the table. I love their schedule. I think it's going to be really hard for anyone to beat them unless there's something we don't see. They're 11-1, 10-2 before they play in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, more than likely. I do love this last part of the schedule, which is at Georgia, which is going to be super tough. Then you've got, 2 back-to-back old Southwest Conference rivalries at the end with Arkansas and A&M. So love that. Hope those rivalries kick back up. By the way, I was wrong. They did win the game. They beat them 28-10. Like you said, it was 1990s, the 92 game, Craig. I looked it up. That Jackie Sherrill came under fire for making a bull a steer in front of his team. So it worked.
Yeah, I guess it worked. The early 90s, a little bit too late to probably be doing things like that, not getting some blowback for it, though.
Yeah.
So, they are shaping up to be another great Texas team, but there are some potential challenges here. As far as who they don't play, you do not play Alabama. You do not play Auburn. You do not play LSU. You do not play Missouri. You don't play Ole Miss. You don't play South Carolina. You don't play Tennessee. You want to know why people call this schedule easy? Because that's like all of the top teams in the league outside of Georgia that you don't play as far as this scheduling goes. Now, maybe Oklahoma is one of those teams. But, yeah, I mean, as far as the most talked about teams, Tennessee, South Carolina, Ole Miss, LSU, Alabama, You don't play any of them, nor Auburn. So I think that might work in your favor, but you're still getting some pretty good ones. So there is Texas in 2025 as they try to get back to the semifinals, at least for the third straight year, and obviously want to get past that sooner rather than later with old Sarkisian. But the Arch Manning show will start off in Columbus, Ohio, almost like God orchestrated that somehow or another. But that's where things will kick off.
That's where it collides in Columbus at the Horseshoe. Last time they played there, 2005, and they won the game. Went on to launch them into the national championship run, eventually to beat with Vince Young's game against USC for the national title. Next year, Ohio State won at DK Royal Memorial Stadium.
They have a weird thing of like playing each other in a bowl game and then playing each other.
Yeah.
Like, didn't they play?
Quan Cosby beat him on a pass against Ohio State at some point in a bowl game.
And they
like in the Rose, like in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, they play. Yeah. I remember it's Quan's, career highlight there.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, not that he didn't have others, but that's the signature one in Israel.
Yeah. So if you replace the Kentucky, Vanderbilt, or Mississippi State game with someone like LSU or Alabama, then my Lord, then the algorithm flipped against you. Thank you, Craig. We have Texas A&M tomorrow, and Vanderbilt will look at their schedule on Friday. We're now joined by Doug LeMaurice. He's with us on 365 Sports, and he watched Kings of the North. That's a podcast. I watched some of it. Very, very good. Doug, thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate you. What is it like right now with the Big Ten winning the last two national titles? Have they flipped the script when it comes to the power structure, or is there still too much that the SEC's done the last 2 decades?
Yeah, I think they've evened the script, right? And we are actually doing a 5-part podcast series right now called the 25-Year Winter on Kings of the North, which is about the South and the SEC dominating college football from 1998 to 2022. And our claim now isn't that the North is now dominating and the Big Ten are now going to dominate. It's that it's back to being even, because in the 25 years before 1998 to 2022, it was even. You had great teams down there, you had great teams up here. And so we think we're getting back to that, and that balance from a conference perspective, from a geographic perspective, is probably the more natural state of college football. And I think in the end, what the SEC has done for the Saban era is going to be a little bit more the exception than the rule. And that, I think the Big Ten can compete right now.
Doug, how much of it is that now everybody can recruit by the same sort of set of rules if you have the money? If you have the bankroll, and before it kind of depended on if your leadership was willing to cheat and how, and how they did that. And now it's just if you have the money.
So episode 4 of the 25-Year Winter drops tomorrow. And the first thing I say in that episode is it's the cheating episode. Yeah. And but also it's the attitudes episode, because it's about how bad did you want it? What were you willing to do? And we're certainly not going to pretend that nobody in the North or the Big Ten ever cheated. But that desire, that passion, at times desperation in the SEC. I feel like sometimes in the last 25 years, the Big Ten and the North were almost scared to be good at football. They maybe thought it was crass. They talked about libraries all the time, and that's just, of course, we value education. You guys value education. We all value education. We're talking ball, man. We're talking college football. Library time is library time. So NIL, yes, now everybody can pay. Transfer portal, you don't have to win the recruitment. There's other ways to build your roster. And then also, I think just an admission up here that, like, we want to try, right? And that it's okay to try to be good at football. I think all those things are convalescing, but the idea that anything that was under the table now can be above the table, to me, that's a huge part of it. And you're exactly right.
Doug, with Oregon winning the regular season, obviously Ohio State eventually winning the national championship, and Michigan the year before, what now, a year into the additions of Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA, how does the rest of the original Big Ten look at all that?
Yeah, I know. And obviously and you guys mentioned that Texas-Ohio State game in 2005 was the very first game I ever covered as an Ohio State beat writer. I showed up on Saturday morning in Columbus, Ohio for my new job, and I went to that Texas-Ohio State game that night in the shoe and got introduced to Vince Young. So I've been around Ohio State a long time, and I know, and they've been the program of the Big Ten, and they want it. They want help. They want another team that can help carry the load. And if you thought that was going to be USC, it's Oregon. So Oregon's presence is gigantic for the Big Ten. What if the SEC had added Texas and Oklahoma, and the Big Ten didn't add Oregon? Can you imagine? Like Oregon is the Texas answer. And now what can Washington be? What can USC maybe get back to being? It's been only Ohio State for too long, but now you see Michigan stepping up. You see Penn State with a real chance to win it all this year. I think the middle of the Big Ten this year is probably better than it's ever been. But the presence of Oregon, I think it cannot be overstated how important they are. And everybody, like it's a little far. It's a little far. I think everybody in the Big Ten wants them, though. They're glad they're here.
Nebraska has been a disappointment to them as far as matching the brand name with the performance. Do you foresee that changing now in the Matt Rule era? It's year 3 of Rule. The year 3 bump has been a real thing at 2 of the last 3 head coaching jobs. He didn't get year 3 at the Panthers. So we'll never know about that. But it looked like they turned in the right direction, at least nominally last year. And this year, could they maybe start to live up to the branding intersecting with those two?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We were kind of on, he makes a year 2 leap, right? From, you go into year 1, then you make a jump in year 2. A lot of us were on the year 2 jump last year. It wasn't maybe as big as you expected, but they made a bowl at Nebraska, which they hadn't made in like 7 years. So that was a big deal. But you're on it with the rule in year 3. And I think the other part of this is, I think the only 2 true freshmen who started in the Power 4 last year for any length of time were C.J. Bailey at North Carolina State and Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. And there's a lot of young quarterbacks that a lot of places are relying on this year. Julian Sand at Ohio State, C.J. Carr at Notre Dame, Ty Simpson at Alabama, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. Dylan Raiola is with those guys, right? But he played a year and he took a bunch of lumps. He wore down a little bit. He made freshman mistakes. But I think if he had not played and had been behind a veteran, a lot of people would be super fired up for Dylan Raiola, 5-star quarterback, to start for the first time at Nebraska. And instead he played. We saw the warts, and I feel like he's kind of underrated right now. They added a huge receiver in the transfer portal in Dane Key. They added a Bama offensive lineman, a Notre Dame offensive lineman, some guys on defense. I am not going to be surprised if Nebraska is for real this year. But the other thing that happens is there's a lot of people saying the last 7 years, this is the year Nebraska is going to be real. No. This is the year Nebraska is going to be real. So they have to prove it, but I think they have a lot of pieces in place.
Yeah, there's a very interesting middle section there, isn't there, of like the Illinois, what does Wisconsin look like? What does USC look like? What does Nebraska look like? But one team that I don't think many of us expected to talk about at all last year, we ended up talking a lot about them, Doug, was Indiana. Curt Cignetti, a fiery personality, definitely more Indiana head coaching quotes last year than we've seen in like the previous 25 probably. That was obviously good for the Big Ten, but what was that kind of different flavoring coming out of Hoosier land like for the Big Ten, and how sustainable do you think it all is?
So how often, you guys have been around college football for a long time, how often does a coach in the Big Ten tick people off? How often is he the irritant? So it's like, yeah, we said he's like a grandpa with no filter. He has no F's left to give, right? My gosh, does the Big Ten need that? The Big Ten needs somebody who will walk it and talk it. So I know it drives people nuts, but it's like for far too often. I mean, you even like the SEC, Greg Sankey talks it and walks it. Of course they do. Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, doesn't really talk it. So we need people to stand up for the Big Ten. So that's great. Their schedule's going to be more difficult this year. Fernando Mendoza probably is an even better quarterback than Curtis Rourke was last year. They have a lot of good skill back. They have a lot of their key defensive pieces back. They have all Big Ten level players at all 3 levels of the defense. And I think it is sustainable. It is unique in some ways. Last year, he just smushed 2 teams together. And they had Indiana and all the best players from JMU, and they were like 2 teams in one. So they've retained a decent chunk of that. But I also think they can build this now. I don't think Indiana's going away. And so we've been talking a lot, is Illinois the Indiana of this year? And then my co-host at some point said, what if Indiana is the Indiana of this year? That we don't want to overlook them, but the schedule discussion that was a huge part of college football last year and has had a gigantic effect. You guys, I'm sure you agree. a lot of the playoff discussions and disagreements we're having right now, Indiana is like the pivot point of that discussion. They're going to have to prove it more this year. It won't be as easy. I would be shocked if they go 11-1. I think they could be as good of a team and go 8-4, but I don't think they're going away.
Yeah, because they were a feel-good last year. It was. I mean, they were the feel-good story. And now it's like, okay, wait a minute. We let you in the front door. Now you have to be able to bully your way back to the front door this time, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's the difference between a team and a program. Anybody can have a good team. You have a good team for a year, but are they going to elevate as a program? And I don't think anyone's expecting them. If the top tier of the Big Ten is Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, not that. But can they be next? Can they be consistently one of the best 6 programs in the Big Ten? I mean, to hire a 63-year-old head coach who's won everywhere and finally give him his shot, that seems smart, right? Why didn't someone give Curt Cignetti a chance like this earlier? And I do think some of the things you see them doing in high school recruiting, the way they continue to work the portal, I think when you have that reputation that Curt Cignetti does, I think they can be a place where a lot of G5 guys want to jump up and go to Indiana because, that coach, he gets players like me. He gets underdogs, guys with chips on their shoulders. So I think they can continue to be that. And they've invested. All right? And the basketball program has not been very good for 20 years since Bob Knight left. So, okay, does Indiana want to be good at football? I think they have the coach in place. And I think if they want to put the resources into it, there's room for them to continue this.
So you mentioned something about the Big Ten coaches being an irritant and the way that things changed. How much of that was Urban Meyer kind of changed the way that they recruited in the Big Ten as well? Because when he came in, they had this kind of gentleman's agreement of, if you're committed to Wisconsin, we're not going to recruit you. As we're in the SEC, and they're like, no. We'll call him as much as we want to call him until he changes his mind or doesn't. And Urban brought that to Ohio State, and a lot of the coaches didn't like it, but then they all started doing
it. You are leading us through the 25-year winter, a 5-part podcast series. We spent 20 minutes on that. And for Urban Meyer to arrive, because the thing that a lot of people said then when Urban Meyer arrived, Brett Bielema said it, we don't want to be the SEC. And then 3 years later, Brett Bielema left for the Arkansas job. It's like, you don't want to be the SEC? That there was that time that being the SEC was a negative. It's like, we don't want to be the SEC. What do you mean? You don't want to be great? You don't want to care about football? You don't want to win national championships? What part of that do you not want to be? And so the Big Ten had to get rid of that idea. And the guy who led it was Urban Meyer. And then Jim Harbaugh was important in that. James Franklin, having been in the SEC at Vanderbilt, I think was important to that. Dan Lanning acts like an SEC coach because he was an SEC assistant, right? He's so important to that at Oregon. And I don't want to call it an SEC mindset. It's a ball mindset. It's a winning mindset. It's a championship mindset. It's a no excuses mindset. And so for too long, I think the Big Ten and the North fell back on, we do it the right way. We talk about doing it the right. It's like, what is the right way? Right. The right way is just a way to excuse 7-5. Like, are we doing this or not? You're gonna destroy tradition in your conference. You're gonna build a conference that stretches from ocean to ocean. You're gonna hurt rivalries. You're gonna play all your games at noon. You're gonna go do all these things, but then you are afraid to push the envelope to win. What are you doing? Why are you doing all the other things? Why are you gathering all this money if you're not going to use it to be good at football?
Why did you get that quarterback? Well, in June, he said he was going to Maryland, so we just said no. Like, we're just like, we
don't want to hurt any feelings in the Big Ten. Sorry, everybody. And so, I think we're finally rid of that, because guess what? It's okay to try to be good at football.
Absolutely.
There's no shame in it, and actually, there's a lot of toughness and pride and great things for your community and your university if you're willing to do it.
Doug Maurice with us on 365 Sports. I saw the note about the preseason poll. As you know, that's been debated. We had a discussion about that a couple of times this week. You said don't eliminate preseason polls, ignore them when the games start. And you're a voter, right?
So I was an AP voter for a very long time. I'm not anymore. I voted differently enough than other people that they had me on College Game Day one morning to try to explain myself, because one year Houston and Kevin Sumlin beat a good team in week 1, and I had him number 2 in the country after week 1.
Oklahoma. They beat Oklahoma.
They beat Oklahoma.
I think. Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And a lot of people say, well, how can you base that? You don't only base that on Oklahoma being ranked. And it's like, well, you have to have some notions. I think Oklahoma's good. I think Oklahoma has good players. I think beating Oklahoma means a lot. So right now, that to me is the second best win in the country. So they're the second best team. And now in week 2, 3, 7, 9, 11, as things work themselves out and we have more data points, I'll change. I'll change every week, but I'm not going to be beholden to what I thought. Why would I be beholden to things when I was guessing? Now I have evidence. So I did that as a voter. And so, but I think like early in the season, I want to know Ohio State, Texas is 1 versus 3 or whatever that's going to be. Why can't we say that? Like, we're so afraid of preseason polls. Ohio State, Texas has to be good against good. We're afraid of putting a number on it. We're going to hurt somebody's feelings, but then don't be beholden to it. Have a brain, right? Like, be able to like take in data and synthesize information. But we don't have to. We don't have to limit the amount of information because we don't know how to use our brains. So I want to know that James Franklin's 3-18 against ranked teams. Well, if they don't have rankings when Oregon and Penn State play in September because nobody does rankings until mid-October, we're not going to know what that is. Like, so it's for history, it's for fans, and if coaches don't like it, I don't give 2 squats what coaches think. I don't work for coaches. I work for fans. And so if like they can't stop me from doing a poll, so they're not going to stop me from doing a poll.
Doug, mentioning James Franklin, does he get to 4-18 versus ranked teams this year when it matters?
So they're built for it, right? I mean, like we're all on the same page. They're very similar to Michigan 2 years ago and Ohio State last year with how much they brought back. They have real talent there. They hired a $3 million a year defensive coordinator. I think you could argue Andy Koltelnicki and Jim Knowles is the best coordinator pairing in the country. There's a lot of teams right now, a lot of blue blood teams: Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Michigan, probably, who are going to play first-year starting quarterbacks. Drew Aller's back for year 3. I think that matters. They added real guys in the portal. At receiver, their running back tandems as good as you'll find in the country. Really experienced and strong on the offensive line. So they got to go do it. And the one thing I thought, it's like I went to Big Ten Media Days. I thought they didn't shy away from it, which doesn't tell you everything. But if James Franklin had gotten to Big Ten Media Days and said, like, I don't want to talk about it, we just have to go win on the field. It's like they understand. You know, I did a preseason poll of 54 people in the Big Ten. Penn State was picked to win the Big Ten. They didn't shy away from that. And I would not have been surprised if they did shy away from it. So there's nothing that should stop them because they can go to Ohio State and lose. James Franklin's only beaten Ohio State once. They can go there and lose and still win the national title. Just like Ohio State lost to Michigan last year. They have a Michigan bugaboo. They still won the national title. So it's all in front of Penn State. And I don't think there's anything on paper that would hold them back other than their coach's record in big games. But Dabo Swinney, once upon a time, didn't have a great record in big games, right? Clemsoning was a thing. Clemsoning, that means falling short. What if you can flip the script on that? Jim Harbaugh, once upon a time, people thought he couldn't win big games. So maybe it's just that it hasn't happened yet. I do not think that James Franklin is the kind of coach who can never win big games, but he's got to prove it.
How do you feel about Matt Patricia at Ohio State as the defensive coordinator taking over for Jim Knowles, who you just mentioned is making $3 million a year?
Yeah, I didn't love it at the time. It felt like, boy, there were not a lot of people in a hurry to hire this guy. And then the defending national champions signed him. Ryan Day since then has said that it was important to him to try to keep the other defensive assistant coaches. They have some really good ones. Tim Walton in the secondary, Larry Johnson on the defensive line, James Laurinaitis at linebacker. So it's like, okay, you want to get a DC who's not going to insist on bringing in his own guys. So Matt Patricia, if he didn't have a ton of offers, he's going to do whatever the head coach says. I'm curious. The reviews from the players have been pretty good. Knowles played a specific style of defense. Patricia seems to be more like a guy who will do whatever fits the personnel. You know, when you have a safety in Caleb Downs, who might be the best defensive player in the country, that certainly helps. They have a lot of young guys elsewhere, though, a lot of inexperienced guys. So I'm not as against it as I was at the time of the hiring, but I also am not going to pretend that losing Jim Knowles and replacing him with Matt Patricia isn't a thing. I think Ohio State would be better if Jim Knowles was still there. But I don't think anymore that like Matt Patricia is a disaster. I really was unsure at the beginning. I think it has a chance to be fine, but I'm not 100% sure it's going to be fine.
Doug, my last question for you is, there's always realignment somewhere, although it probably won't be until the next TV deals or whatever. Who among those who might be interested, North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, whatever, the Big Ten looks at themselves the way you have said, hey, kiss the ring. Who among those that might get loose would they be interested in or not?
So again, this is something we cover in the 25-year winter. They've always been very insistent on any university being part of the AAU, which is like the academic part of big time universities. And that, for instance, like Oklahoma is not an AAU university. And so they never really seemed interested in Oklahoma. Nebraska was at the time when they joined the Big Ten. They now have since lost that designation, but 17 of 18 universities in the Big Ten are AAU universities. I think 5 of 16 in the SEC are. And that doesn't mean anything. It's just a designation, right? I don't know how much that's going to matter to the Big Ten going forward. Does that rule out some schools? But the one thing I think we've learned is geography doesn't matter. And maybe like weird geography is almost a plus. So if they wanted to get into New York and now they wanted to get into the West Coast, do they want to get into the South? Do they want to get into Florida State? Do they want to get into Georgia Tech? Do they want to get into that world and have a little incursion? I would never rule that out anymore. And then the thing that's out there is, could they give Notre Dame a deal where maybe even not even necessarily have Notre Dame in the conference, but the deal that Notre Dame has with the ACC? What if the Big Ten just finally said, that's good enough. Come in with us, play our teams 5 times a year. All your other sports can be in the Big Ten, but like we want to at least have you as like an auxiliary member. So that has obviously, anytime you mention the Big Ten and expansion, Notre Dame's that team. But I wonder if the Big Ten had maybe had a hard line in the past, if they'd maybe take a middling deal this time, because guess what? Notre Dame's pretty good at football. And I think if they could get the same deal with the Big Ten they have with the ACC, they might do it.
Doug, thank you. Great stuff. Tell everybody about where they can find your podcast. I've watched it a little bit. You've referred to it a lot. Your thoughts about, again, Kings of the North.
Yeah, so it's Kings of the North. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on social platforms at KOTNCFB. Right now, we're twice a week. When the season starts, we'll be 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then a post-game show on Saturday night. We focus on 28 power conference teams in the northern part of the country, just to kind of draw lines through the middle of the country, and you can figure it out. And the other part of that is right now in those feeds, we're in the midst of a 5-part podcast series about this era where the South dominated the North. That's called the 25-year winter. It's a 5-part series. 3 episodes are out. Episode 4 drops on Thursday, tomorrow. And I just got to say, you guys are on it, man. You guys are awesome at this. Thank you for inviting me on. And this is one of the better college football conversations I've had on our show in a long time.
Well, with you too. Well, we have great guests, and you're now on that list. I'm glad I reached out to you. Glad you were available. And Doug, have a great rest of your week, and we'll have you on again.
I'll look forward to it, and we'll have you guys back on our show too. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Awesome. All right. That's Doug LeMarisa, again, Kings of the North. That just sounds like, I watched part of it last night. It sounds like an incredible podcast series about how everything migrated down to what, of course, the 25-year window, as he mentioned, with the SEC and when they've had this great run. Appreciate his time. Retired stockbroker, $2 super chat. F Blue Bloods. I want to see new Blue Bloods kick ass. Go Big 12.
That's tough to do, though, man. I mean, you
got to put together more than a year or two. You got to put together a bunch, a chunk. Doesn't mean you have to do the 3 out of 4 national titles, because I don't know if anyone in the Big 12 is capable of winning the national title, hopefully soon, but then doing it again and again, or at least being a part of it over a pretty decent stretch.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of where the Blue Bloods kind of view everybody who's not a Blue Blood that starts to get good all of a sudden is the Clampets, right? The Beverly Hillbillies. And, they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly, but they didn't really change anything about themselves. They were still shooting varmints and all that stuff. So that's the hard part, is that you can have all the money you want. I mean, they were oil millionaires, the Clampets were, but, nobody seemed to care because they had, this idea of what a Blue Blood really is.
Well, we'll see if Joey Clampett and Baron Clampett and Cody Campbell Clampett and all those folks will be able to establish a new blood, because if they can't do it, then nobody's going to be able to. I mean, that's the thing is it is a system now that works against becoming a blue blood, because now you have to win multiple playoff games against teams who are probably richer and bigger than you are in most cases, with far more history in many cases. Whereas you have to win one or two of those games. Now you have to win 3 or 4 of those games. And I just think that's going to be incredibly difficult. However, you do have the ability to go and buy your roster now. So if you have a school that has the right funding, then anything's possible.
And the right people to judge talent, right?
The right coach and the right assistants. I mean, then anything's possible. And I think that's a experiment we're going to see bear out with Tech. I think they're going to be one of those. I think there will be some others as well. But I do think they're a case study of, can you, in this new era, go from regular fit to blue blood status, or try to get into the club? Is that going to be possible, or is it just going to be harder than ever and it's never going to happen? Like, the club's closed for good because there's just nobody that's capable of stringing together what needs to be strung together. And so we're at that kind of point right now. I know some people feel like the club's closed, nobody's capable, but I don't know. I'm willing to let it play out a little bit, because Tech is very, very talented. And we weren't talking about Clemson the way we are just a few years ago. Now, I know they were winning titles when it was different. It was right before all this changed. But I don't think the changes automatically work against non-blue bloods. I think they can work for you, and the Red Raiders are going to be an example of that.
Fabian Roche is watching us from Germany. Thank you very much for being a part of it, and all of you. And as Roger Dodger USC fan, you got to go back 100 years to become a blue blood. Well, that's not quite the case, because Clemson didn't. And I think they're considered as a part of that group. And that's always debatable.
Well, Guten Tag, first of all. And then second of all, yeah and no. I mean, I think that if Oregon were to win a couple national titles here in the next 10 years, I think that they would be right there on the cusp of being mentioned along with that. Now, I know there's plenty that would probably still not allow them in just yet, because it's too new blood versus blue blood. But yeah, I mean, typically that goes hand in hand with having played for ever and ever and won some titles in the 50s and won some titles in the 60s or something like that. But yeah, it's a very hard club to get into, for sure. And they're not very welcoming, and the rules are not very welcoming either a lot of the time. So it's more likely we don't see anybody ever join that club again than likely we see more than like maybe a school join it. But that'll be part of kind of the fascination of it all.
We're going to have Matt McChesney in a moment. We're going to take a break. General Ursus, my dream college football semifinal is Tennessee versus OU, Nebraska, Notre Dame. It's been a long time since any of those four have won a natty, and history says we're all well overdue.
Yeah, I mean,
Tennessee in 98, Nebraska in 97, OU in 2000, and Notre Dame in 88.
Yeah.
Been a long time. You're
we've
right.
seen Oklahoma have several cracks at it, and Stoops and Riley both just couldn't break through after 2000. I mean, despite multiple opportunities to just kept running into, USC, and then it was the SEC. LSU got them, Florida got them, Georgia got them. So, that's been problematic for them. But that'd be fun. I mean, it'd be fun to see, who's going to win a brand new title for the first time in 20-something years in most of those cases. That would be cool. That'd be refreshing. Still eyeball drawers, but with plenty of history to back it up. And Notre Dame's been knocking on that door. Nebraska hasn't. For about 20 years, they haven't knocked on that door. But that's what you hope Matt Rule can correct and get them back to.
They got to build the door first and where the handle is. When we come back, Matt McChesney, Colorado. Dion, of course, the big story from earlier in the week, and his thoughts about the Big 12 as they move into year 2 with the 4 schools that came in from the Pac-12. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, right now on available. I had a conversation earlier today with my good friend Ted Teague, General Manager, CEO at Alan Samuels. 2025 Jeep Gladiator Mojave X, $11,000 off. The all new 2025 Jeep Gladiator Mojave X, built for extreme off-road adventure, now priced to move. But you better do it now with Alan Samuels, Loop 340, and also Highway 6 in Waco. Also, 2025 Ram ProMaster, available now at Alan Samuels. Best-in-class capability, advanced tech, and more upfit options than ever before. It's the van that works as hard as you do. Need one? Need a fleet? they have you covered at Allen Samuels. And also, they, of course, have other pre-owned cars if you want, like the one I bought back in 2020 that I love, the Ford Explorer that was on their lot, of 2017 Ford Explorer. 2021 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack Wide Body Rare Gold Rush, just 9,000 miles, 480 horsepower. It is ready for you. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 15 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Good man. Thank you, son.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, Chocolate Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclow.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports and our great friend, Matt McChesney. It's been way too long. 6 Hero Academy, former Colorado Buffalo analyst. And thank you for your time, Craig and Paul. David Smoak. Appreciate it, Matt. So was there a sense of relief just to hear Dion speak and kind of let everybody know what's been going on?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me back on, guys. It has been too long. You guys do such a great job. Really appreciate you having me back on. Look, it was just a sense of relief, for my friend and a guy that I really look up to and one of the best players that's ever worn a jersey, to beat cancer. A lot of people don't. So that was awesome. Getting back your football coach after a 4-month hiatus and wondering, what was really going on. Incredible as well. It's like we got a new version of Prime, and he's energized, and it's really hard to complain and moan and be hurt and have a injury or whatever at practice these days when your head coach has 8 toes and is carrying around a bag and he's dealing with some real health issues. Maybe your ankle can get taped when you go to practice. So I think that it's going to be extremely inspirational as the season goes on. I think the way he the way he manipulated the situation, he just plays the media like a fiddle, bro. I mean, I've never seen anybody do anything like it before. And for him to be as quiet and to keep this as quiet as it was, with the people knowing, with Randy Moss calling him twice a week, and his son being down there with him, and everybody knowing, and then for Shador and Shiloh not to know, and for the public not to know, and for them to document all of it, and it's going to come out, and I think it's going to be extremely inspirational for a lot of people. So other than the people in Lincoln, everybody seemed to like it.
Matt, this is a team that did something at Media Days that was I've never seen before. They brought both quarterbacks. That means that one of two things: either they've straight up lost their minds and just grabbed one of them at the end, or they actually, which is more realistic, really believe in both these guys, in Caden Salter and Juju Lewis, both with that are, Caden Salter's a veteran, Juju Lewis is a true freshman. Is this maybe some mad science going on at Colorado that might just work out with two quarterbacks playing a significant role?
I for a long time I thought Juju would win the job, and then I went up and talked to the OC Pat Schumer, and then a bunch of the guys that I trust up there, and watch some film on Salter and hear what they have to say. And I'm pretty sure the fifth-year senior from Liberty is gonna start for the Buffs. But taking Juju to Media Day, Salter is a mercenary loan, and that's what he is. He's a one-year guy. We got him for a year. He's there to set the table and run, and really the RPO game will be outstanding under that kid. I think that the skill athletes they have there, and now the offensive line, which I hope we talk about, I think that they're going to be really explosive. And I think taking Juju, he's not just another quarterback. He's the number one quarterback in his class, and he should be a senior in high school right now. So he's experiencing all this at 17 years old, and essentially you're going to get him for 4 straight years as a starter, potentially. Now with the ability to redshirt and play 3 to 5 games or whatever it is. So I think it was really smart for coach to do that, and especially in today's world where tampering is running rampant. Coaches are calling. I mean, I don't know how many phone calls I field a week from coaches looking to get players off of other people's rosters rather than recruit high school kids, but it's a lot. So I think it was very smart to take Juju just to show the young man the value that he has to not only the program but to Coach Prime. I've been pretty close with his father, and he's pretty pumped up about the way things are headed in Boulder. So I think that usually when you have two, you don't have one, but I don't think that's the case in Boulder. I think that they've got a really, really, really good quarterback room, and man, that rookie is special. But Salter, there's just something about that kid. He's been in a ton of battles. He can really run, and he brings a very calming sense to the huddle when he gets in it. So I think that they're really sitting pretty right now.
So, Matt, you said you hope we talk about the O-line. Here we go, the O-line. I mean, that was such a bugaboo the last couple years and so widely discussed. But they brought in very talented players. I mean, you got Seaton and various others through the portal, and just overall, it seems like they've got a good group to work with. So what are your thoughts on what they've put together? And is this going to be a year where the storyline's not, hey, protecting the quarterback basically from start to finish?
I think they're going to run the ball a lot more, which will help. But at the same time, I think they finally have the offensive line to run the ball more. Last year, I would say that, when people would be like, well, why don't we run the ball like Kansas State or so on and so forth? And I'm like, because we don't have the dudes up front to do it. We have a dude and then 4 guys. Well, now I think we have 3 NFL draft picks, and 2 of them are first rounders on that squad right now, and they're playing 2 of them next to each other. So Xavier Hill, the big mauler that they got from Memphis, and I'm pretty good friends with Ryan Silverfield, their head coach, and he raves about this kid. I thought that they would put him at tackle, and they brought in Larry Johnson from Tennessee, and Tennessee does a really good job of recruiting the room down at 6-0, and they got a couple of my guys. So I was able to get a little bit of insight into Larry, and they put Larry at right tackle, and they moved Xavier Hill to left guard next to Jordan Seaton. And I haven't seen a 1-2 punch like that in Boulder, where you got a first-round guard and a potential first-round tackle since Andre Durant and Victor Rogers. And they were two guys that I played with there. And Andre Durant now is the offensive line coach up there with Coach Gunner and Coach Hang. And I think he's bringing an extremely, sharp sword to this fight. And he knows what it takes in Boulder to really be successful. Every team that's ever been elite has been able to really pound the football and control the game on the ground. And I think last year's team was really good, but the standard in Boulder, and Coach Prime will be the first one to tell you this, and so some of the Prime sexuals will get mad at me about this, but that's okay. It's all good. It's championships, and it's Big 12 championships, and it's national championships. That's what we want to win there. So with that offensive line and the way they're putting it together, the competition at the right guard in the center spot, the depth they have on the field, the tight ends they brought in, the Atkins kid who's a veteran, and then also keep an eye out for this big kid from Loveland High School that I placed there named Zane D'Souza, who's 6'7", 260, and ran 4'5", 4'6" at the camp. He's getting a lot of runs as a freshman and out there blocking like an offensive lineman, which is, the way that we teach it. So I think that they finally have the offensive line and the big guys to match their skill positions and their quarterbacks. And if Shador and Travis and Jimmy Horn and all these guys, if they could have done both at the same time, I think they would have, but they couldn't. And that's just because of the financial reasons and so many other things. But I think that they're a much better team than they were last year when they won 9 games. Last year, obviously, they had superstars all over the field, but those superstars carried us. And if they didn't play well, or you took one of them away, or they hit Shador enough, we would lose games. This year, I think we're really, really good up front, and I think our defense is super mean and fast. And I know I'm a homer, but I would not be surprised at all if Colorado's contending for the Big 12.
Matt, as a guy that played in the trenches, we all have seen what the not hype, but what the expectations are for Jordan Seaton. Is there any doubt that he'll play on Sundays?
Oh, no. When I was with the Dolphins and the Jets, when I got moved to offense, because I played defense my whole life, my first 2 years in the league, and then I got moved. Right when I got moved with the Jets, we drafted a guy named DeBrucker Ferguson. And when I got picked up by the Dolphins, they drafted Jake Long, number 1 overall. And I think Jordan is better in college right now than both of them. I think Jordan Seaton, with his work ethic and how he works mentally, physically, just how humble he is, like he's got some swag to him, but that doesn't mean he's not humble and he's not a hard worker. I think he's the first pick in the draft when he comes out, depending on how it works. If he could go second or third, depending on if there's quarterbacks available. But if you want a 15-year bookend tackle that's just going to get better and better and better and better, somebody's going to get a hell of a player when the draft comes, because he is so special.
Matt, offensive line is the hardest position to stockpile now, especially with the transfer portal. Guys don't want to wait to play. And I get it. If you're a junior already, you're going to go somewhere and play. If you happen to get blocked. That's why I think the SEC maybe is more vulnerable than it has been, because Georgia used to be able to just stack guys. So it's like 5-star tackle tears his ACL. Well, we got 2 more of those. Pull the new one off the factory line and put him in. But do you also need to recruit and get guys like Jordan Seaton, who absolutely has made it clear that he wants to stay at Colorado, who's mad when people transferred? He said, you can't build the brotherhood. But to have people like that, to have the magnet for other offensive linemen to go well, that's a dude. I know if he's there, I'll look better.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt. There's 5 of us. Look, there's 4 defensive linemen, 3 defensive linemen, depending on your set, over, under, odd, things of that nature. But defensive linemen are individuals. They're playing one gap. They've got one job. I know, because I did this forever. And then I got moved to offense, and I was like, oh, okay, we're a fist. And if one of our pieces or 2 of our pieces are weak, the defense is just going to attack it all day. And it really doesn't matter how good the other pieces are. So when you've got a guy like Jordan Seaton, who's not only your best player, but is actively recruiting guys, actively, Brett Coolidge is a guy that's going to commit on Friday, and he's a 4-star. Goes to IMG, play next to Seton. His top 5, Colorado's in the top 5. I don't know if that's where he's going to go. Actually, I know exactly where he's going to go, but I'm not going to tell y'all. But my point is he even considering Boulder if Jordan's not there, a guy that he played with, with that familiarity and that kind of push? Because I don't care what anybody says. Any athlete that plays football that tells you they don't want to play on Sunday is going to Yale. So it's where you can get developed. I think they have the right coaches in place to do that. But so much of it is the guys you play with because they push you to get better. And if you don't have anybody that's going to take your job ever, or you don't have anybody that's going to push you, are you really going to be the best version of yourself? So, I think that Seton exemplifies a lot of these things, and he expects the guys that come in to operate like that, i.e. Xavier Hill. I'm telling you, if they stay with this and Hill and Seton play next to each other all year, we're going to run left a lot for a lot of yards.
Well, that's good news because they just could not functionally run it as part of the offense before. And Shedeur had maybe the benefit of he's been in this with Deion. I mean, he's been there. Deion made him, or 50% of him. Deion made him. They were together for so long. The challenge for the coaching staff is now to increase the offense when you don't have someone like Shedeur that just knew how to get out of trouble when bad things happen to that offense. It's a little bit different when you've got new guys.
Yeah, it is. And look, Shedeur Sanders is one of the best players to ever play at the University of Colorado. He did a great job in turning that around with his dad and Travis Hunter, a Heisman winner, and everything else. And when you have mismatches like that, you have to take advantage of them. And they did 9 times. But the 4 losses, they're all exactly the same. All 4 of them. Kansas State walked into Folsom and ran the ball down their face and beat them close. They went to Kansas City and played Kansas, and Kansas beat the absolute hell out of them up front on both sides of the ball. Wasn't close. BYU in the ball game beat the hell out of them up front. Wasn't close. So, it's when they went to Lincoln and played Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska beat them up front, and they couldn't do anything. So a lot of it is scheme. I think that last year, if they would have incorporated some different formations and motion packages and things, it could have helped. But again, when you have that kind of advantage, you're going to throw the ball 50 times. When you have Joe Burrow back there with all those receivers at LSU, they're not trying to control tempo. They're trying to score 60 points. So that's what they were trying to do in Boulder. Now they've kind of changed their mindset a little bit. They're acclimating to their player rather than making the player acclimate to the scheme. And that's some NFL stuff right there. That is a really good coaching staff saying, what we did with last year's NFL quarterback, we can't do with this year's potential NFL quarterback. So we've got to change things, and I think that they will and be very successful at it. And look, you've just got to play to your talent, and I think they're deeper up front. I'm a little concerned about the running back position, but at the same time, I think it's the easiest position to really excel at if everybody else does their job. And I think their receivers are elite. You can lose Travis Hunter and the group gets better, lose Horn and the group gets better, lose Shepard and the group gets better. I don't know if I'm there yet, but they're pretty damn good. And they finally have a tight end in the middle of the field. Smalls did a good job for him last year, but was a liability in blocking at times and is not a pass catcher. So now they've got a couple guys that can attack the middle of the field as well. And I don't know. I think that the schedule is favorable, but I'll tell you that Georgia Tech game to open the season has got me nervous because they're exactly what North Dakota State was last year, except they got guys that grew up in Atlanta. So not a bunch of farmers from North Dakota. So we better get our mind right because I'll tell you, Georgia Tech's coming into town to start the score.
Yeah, they're really good. Haynes King and them, and what
He's
they
a good player,
had
bro.
Georgia dead to rights until that fumble on what could have been a targeting, should have been a targeting call.
Should have been a targeting. I agree.
Yeah. Last thing, Matt, we appreciate your time. With all of the talent, the skill talent gone,
right?
You mentioned that all the other parts of the roster are better, perhaps. Can they be better Or is that going to be something that they don't have enough of those stars to win games?
I think the offense as a whole will be more complete, not more dynamic. I don't think they're going to be able to just walk out, go 4 or 5 wide, find the open guy, score touchdowns, pop, 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 the way they did last year. They're going to have to play a little bit more ball control. But I think the RPO, like a perfect example of this is they are going to try and do what Georgia Tech does and how hard they are to defend because their quarterback can move in the RPO game. And it's the same thing we do at my son's high school where I coach. It's our quarterback can run and throw, so it puts the defense in a bind. You're playing 11 on 11. Last year, even though Shador was so outstanding, once he handed the ball off or threw it, he's done. He's not really that much of a risk to run the ball unless we're on the goal line. So, and you don't want to run him either because he's already taken so many shots, throwing the football. So I think they have a chance to be more dynamic if the guys can mature in the receiver room and the tight end room. But, man, replacing Shador and Travis Hunter and Horn and Shepard and all these other cats, I think it's going to be we're going to have some growing pains for sure, and we're going to have to figure some stuff out on the fly. And I think it's going to put a lot of pressure, which is a good thing, on Coach Prime and his staff to make in-game adjustments instead of just what we're going to do here is let Shador save our ass.
Yeah.
Unless that's not a game plan. That's a prayer. So he's gone now, and he's got to go see if he can get some run in Cleveland. So now they just need to, be able to change things on the fly. And if something's not working, the worst thing you can possibly do with a young team that is just coming together is just keep swinging the hammer at something that doesn't work. Because in this day and age, guys are very quick to look towards what's next. And you got a lot of guys on that roster that want to go to the NFL. So they need to make sure that the teaching points day by day are, if you don't do your job here, why will they think you're going to do your job there? So, that needs to be reiterated big time.
Man, we'll have you again once the season kicks off, Matt. It's great to see you again. Glad to have you with us. Thanks for your time. We appreciate
it, guys. And then everybody, if you want to go to YouTube and check out 0 to 60, that's the pod. And then at 60 Academy all over social media on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. So
it's very entertaining. We have to go, but the comment about who was it? Teddy Bridgewater. I saw your rant about Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Loved it. Thanks for your time, my friend.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it, guys.
Matt McChesney, again, former Colorado defensive lineman as well, and played in the NFL with us on 365 Sports. When we come back, Paul Catalina at his top 5 and Andrew Village poll results next on 365 Sports. Ideal.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. I am Paul Catalina, and this is my Top 5. That sounds repetitive, but that's marketing, baby. Flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports. Flag and Anthem. Use our promo code 365sports. That means you'll remember it because I said it twice every time through. I'm a genius, babe. B storylines in the Big Ten. Now, these are not the A storylines or the major things. These are the little side stories you have to look for. Think of it like a sitcom. There's always an A story, a B story, and a C story. Now, the C stories I'm not going to worry about. I don't even know what those are yet. But the B storylines, we know what those are. Number 5. I'm back to counting down in the right way again. New coordinators at Ohio State. Look, Brian Hartline, one of the best recruiters in the country, is now their OC. He'll be calling plays. I think that'll ultimately work out well because he's very sharp. But I do think that there will be some growing pains. Where I think there will be a lot of growing pains, and perhaps tragic ones, is on the other side of the ball, where Matt Patricia is. Matt Patricia, who has coached in college not a lot, and not a lot recently, and his stops without Bill Belichick have not been successful. Well, guess who doesn't coach at Ohio State? Bill Belichick. Interesting to watch to see how they adjust. They lost 2 really good coordinators in Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles. Both those guys are gone. They're off to other jobs. We'll see how it affects the Buckeyes this year. Number 4. Will USC play defense 2 years in a row? D'Anton Lynn, and yes, I saw the typo. We're ignoring it. We're ignoring it because I don't want to walk over and stop taping. Will D'Anton Lynn continue to improve that defense? Jordan Mailata is their starting quarterback, and that's been Lincoln Riley's forte. Well, he is not a really highly recruited guy. He's a transfer from UNLV who sat behind Miller Moss for most of last year. Now he's the guy. We'll see what kind of QB guru he is. But Lincoln Riley was made to start caring about defense for the first time in his career last year. Brought in D'Anton Lynn from UCLA. You saw an improvement. What will it be like year 2? Will they continue to improve on that side of the ball? That's a big one. Number 3, is the Matt Rule year 3 bump in effect? Temple, Baylor show you he didn't get the year 3 bump at Carolina because they fired him before year 3, because that's a fun organization. But Nebraska appears headed in that direction. Dylan Raiola, the receivers they went out and got, bringing in Dana Holgerson as the offensive coordinator. Yes, they have to replace Tony White, but their defensive culture is established. This should be a much better Nebraska team year 3, and I would not be surprised to see them take down some big boys. Number 2, who is this year's Indiana? Out of nowhere, nobody's thinking about them. I'm going to say Michigan State. You know why I'm going to say Michigan State? The man himself, Jonathan Smith, who took over there after leaving his alma mater in Oregon State. Did a great job at Oregon State, has had a year to figure things out and get pointed to true north. Watch out for Sparty this year. They might surprise some people because they've got a damn good coach. Now, I'm not talking about their players and their roster. That remains to be seen. But I trust in Jonathan Smith, and I expect to see an improvement there this year in East Lansing. Number 1, Kirk Ferentz is re-energized. You would have thought of all the old, grizzled, grumpy-ass coaches in the world that Kirk Ferentz would not like this era of college football. Quite the contrary. He says the new challenge has re-energized him. And when a football mind like Kirk Ferentz gets re-energized, that's bad news for the rest of the conference, for the rest of the world. He's already got a great defensive coordinator in Phil Parker. He's been made to be a little bit more offensively innovative, and Mark Gronowski steps in at quarterback this year after a really good run at the FCS level, winning national titles. So, is Kirk Ferentz re-energized? That's bad news for the Big Ten and bad news for the rest of the country when you play him, because if he's got a new spring in his step, 90 is the new 30. I know he's not 90. I don't know how old he is. He looks 90 sometimes, though. But best of luck to you, Kirk Ferentz, if you are truly re-energized in this chaotic era of college football. That's going to do it for the top 5.
Smokey has to read some polls.
I think Kirk Ferentz looks really good for how I don't even know his age. I'm not sure if he's my age or older than that. But
he's
thank you,
grizzled.
Paul.
That's what he is.
He is grizzled. Not Kyle Whittingham grizzled, but close. All right, Andrew. The Lade. You wake up in a world where the College Football Super League is real. How do you feel? 40%. I had an idea that this would be the highest number. Bring back the old world. Heartbroken, and then fired up and on the fence. Tied at 17.
Yeah, I would want to bring back the old world. Super League doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I'd want to bring back the old world. Super League doesn't do anything for me either. I'm not gambling on everything all the time, and I feel like that's part of what the appeal would just be the better games, bigger stakes, bigger conversation. So if you want like the elite of the elite all the time, then I think the Super League is good for gambling purposes or for TV ratings purposes or for your fandom, depending on who you were rooting for to begin with. But yeah, if you're not like an Ohio State fan or a Texas fan or somebody like that, the question with the Super League thing is always like, how many teams are we really talking about? Like, what are we really talking about? Are we talking about the Blue Bloods? Or are we talking about the Blue Bloods and their buddies who were born at the right time and joined at the right time?
Yep, that's why I asked Matt.
Basically the coasters.
Yep.
Because if it's the Blue Bloods and the coasters, well, then it's just trimmed down. It's not like super elite. It's and so that's where I would need to see the details. So I think I'm on the fence. But I would mostly bring back the old world and leave it how it is for the most part. But if we have to go there, then I'd be very much on the fence about it.
Well, 40% made it very clear. That's a high number. That's a large. We don't very often get over 40% for anything. Thank you for that one. And here's the other one. Which team has the best shot at winning their first ever Super Bowl? Lions, of course, last year had a tremendous year, and then they ran into the Washington Jaden Daniels. And then, of course, Buffalo's been knocking on that door. And back in the days of Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed and company. So I pick Buffalo.
Yeah, I think it's probably Buffalo because Josh Allen eventually is gonna win one of those games against Mahomes. You would think.
But then you have to win another one.
Yeah, but you have
you would think it's carrying a lot of weight though.
Yeah, it is.
That's the thing.
So I mean, he's beatable. We've seen him lose. It's just the Bills keep getting them, when they need to not. So I'll say the Bills, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Lions be really good again, although they do have to replace both coordinators. But I think that's all about that's all about Dan Campbell and the culture he's established there.
I think the Lions have the best shot, although the Bills are right there. So I'm not surprised to see these polls pretty much identical with the slight lean towards Buffalo there. But yeah, Cincinnati, they have a fun quarterback and fun wide receivers, and beyond that, we wouldn't be talking about them if not for those guys. And I know you could kind of do that, but it's not like they've been super great for like Buffalo knocking. But Burrow keeps them interesting and his receivers. But I don't like the whole theme of their offseason has been holding out on their draft pick. Like that's the whole talking point about Cincinnati. LA. I don't enjoy Harbaugh. I don't think like his whole thing. I just think he's kind of goofy. I don't really find him funny or anything like that. He's weird, and I don't find him really all that endearing or entertaining at all. But I do think he's a hell of a football coach, and he definitely makes LA a lot more interesting. So definitely won't put them in the close to the Super Bowl category, but they are worth watching a lot more than I think they were beforehand. So yeah, I think those are the top two, and I'd say Detroit just because I think maybe they have an easier road, but with what Philly's doing now, like I don't know how much easier the road really is at this point in the NFC.
Yeah, and they look like they could be restocked, although we know sometimes that you win a Super Bowl, the Chiefs are the exception, of course, lately. Fabian in Germany, I voted Bills. I'm an Eagles fan, by the way. Go Birds.
Well, been a good little run for you, Fabian. We do appreciate you being along with us, and I'd love to see the Bills. My sister, her favorite player is Josh Allen.
Jossie Poo.
And I know she'd be very, very excited by a Bills Super Bowl, as would a lot of people. So I would love, just as a fan, I'd love to see that. It's something fresh and new, and the Bills have never won one before, so that'd be pretty cool.
4 straight they lost in the Super Bowl to New York, Washington, and the Cowboys twice.
My best friend growing up, Billy Garlock, he is a huge Bills fan. And those last 2 Super Bowls were at the very beginning of our friendship. And I'm surprised we made it, because
that means you guys are tight.
We are, because it's Cowboys. And look, 12 and 13-year-old Paul, or 13 and 14-year-old Paul, was not polite when it came to my team beating your team.
Yeah, because you were in a great run with all of your teams.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
Brandon.
Not the Red Sox, but
Brandon wrote, thank you very much. Brandon had to race out front to get the pizzas I ordered from Marco's, one of the great sponsors of our show. Garrett Ross, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Valade for the polls, and he puts them up twice every show, and the results at the end for Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. Thanks to all of our great guests. I enjoyed all of them, but Leigh Maurice from the big North.
Kings of the North.
Yeah, Kings of the North. That sounds like it's going to be a fun podcast to watch. For everybody, thank you so much. I'm David Smoak. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow at 3.